Oh boy. I hope you guys turn down your speakers when this show starts.
I know, right?
Otherwise, right off the bat, you're like, what's
Right
going
off the
on
bat, we're
here?
pissing people off.
Yeah, yeah. Or at least deafening them. I don't know about making them mad necessarily,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
all right. Yo, YouTube. Welcome back to live. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We haven't missed one yet. It's
Yeah,
been about 8 months, maybe. I don't know, a long time.
yeah. You had to go solo on a couple because of my conflicts, but we haven't outright missed one.
Yeah, Charlie likes to do a lot of stuff, and I try to do less stuff if I can help it.
Football's in full swing now. First week of fall camp.
Ugh, no thanks. All right, so we do have some topics for tonight,
We
which
do?
of course, we do our loosey goosey show here, but we do have a few things we wanted to cover.
I
We were
thought we were going to say the first person in the chat gets to produce the show.
sure, that sounds good to me. Less work for me. I'm all
All
for
yours,
that.
Troy.
I'm all for that. Yeah, it's all on Troy. Glad you joined us tonight, Troy. So far, you're the only one in there chatting. So, but anyway, we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the rumors for eBay fees, which kind of stems from other selling categories that have faced sort of the same thing that's going on right now, and we'll go into that a little bit later. Uh, fee changes for the better for the sellers, and then we also wanted to talk about feedback and why it really doesn't matter. Um,
To put it bluntly.
to put it bluntly, I I think we feel like it has more of an impact than it does. Now, all right. Well, we'll talk about that when we get there. But that we want to go over a little bit, and then let's see. What are our plans? Me and Charlie and Stuart's plans going forward now that the national is done. And what do we think the national will look like next year? Which, of course, we intend to attend. And then any YouTube plans going forward. So kind of a our year kind of culminates in the national. That's our big inventory buying week, and then we sort of reset and okay, now what do we do going from here? Obviously, we both. I would assume you still have inventory to list.
I do.
Yeah,
Yet that did not stop me from bringing home another 4 or 5,000 cards.
I have probably 35,000 cards to list yet. So,
Yeah.
doing pretty good on that front. But there's other things that I still want to pick up, and as new sets come out, you can't just sort of rest on the laurels of what you currently have either. So
Right.
anyway, so that's kind of the topics we wanted to cover tonight. All pretty good ones, I think. All ones that I believe will impact most of us that watch this show. Um, so yeah, so let's start off by seeing how we're doing. What's going on, Charlie? Besides football.
Well, yeah, besides football. Well, that's pretty much the big thing after the office 9 to 5, right? Like every day after work, I gotta be out on the football field. So it is impacting my ability to list a little bit right now.
Hmm.
Kind of gearing up for the next rotation with the scanner to make sure I get caught up on some stuff. But I still put some on my phone every day. I put some in every morning before work. I put some in every night. In fact, as we were getting ready to go here, I put another dozen or so WWE cards out there. So I look to at least try and, well, it's funny as I think about this. I try to at least cover what I sell every day by listing new inventory.
Sure.
However, I have hit a little bit of a backlog on that even since the national, where I've had trouble maintaining. So it's interesting. You hit those landmarks on listing numbers, and as soon as you hit it, they try to knock it down because you're selling cards, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and
go ahead. Go ahead.
I kind of remember the days of that as well. Um, and now I just don't even look at it. If whatever sells, sells, especially with coupons and things like that, moving quantities. I had 2 Goonies cards the past 2 days. One I sold 25 copies of, and one I sold 34 copies of
You love
to
telling me
one
about
buyer. To one buyer. Well, I had to tell you it was Goonies.
Someday I will get to the Goonies first.
No, never. But
Hey, it happened with some bronies.
it did. Yes, you did get some bronies that I would have bought. That is true. But you left me some meat on the bone, though. I
I
did
did.
find some others. Yeah, I think it's, and I'm hearing so much conversation about non-sport cards. When I started doing it and throwing it in videos and stuff, everybody thought I was nuts. Like, what are you doing buying Batman cards? But um, I think everybody's just trying to find a place and find a way to excuse me, be a part of it. And that's one of the good ways to do it. I was going to tell you I watched a video on just from a YouTuber that made it from the Philadelphia non-sport show. Remember, I kind of brought that up to you, maybe that we attend that some year.
Yeah.
And cool stuff. There's cool stuff in the video. Tiny show. Like, you think about the National for Sports Collectors, and it's like insane, and getting more insane. More on that in a little bit. Um, and this show is maybe 60 tables, 75 tables max. I don't
Yeah.
even think it's close to that. I would say 60 tables max. And I'm like, geez, it's a 12-hour trip for us to get there. If we go by car, we would probably fly to that one. Excuse me. I was up really early today. Got a
Aren't you
jump
up
start.
early every day?
Even a little bit earlier today, though. I had to go to the DMV and renew my driver's license, which is like a 2-hour venture.
Yeah.
And I know you can renew it online before everybody jumps all over me. But I wanted to get a real ID. I don't have a real ID yet, and I want that because I'm going to be flying and things like that. So, you have to go in. You got to bring in your passport and do it. It's a whole
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, so I had that, and then I had a couple things I was doing with Luna today. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll get started an hour or two earlier. That's the beauty of working for yourself. You can put your hours in when you can put your hours in.
Sure.
Probably a bad day to choose that since I have the live tonight versus other nights, but is what it is. Um, so yeah, I think non-sports is going to continue to get some more focus. I think it's going to be harder to get a hold of some stuff. Um, I sold quite a bit of stuff from the national that I've already listed, and I'd say a good at least third to half of it is non-sport.
Sure.
So it moves just as much as the sports stuff does in many ways. And a lot of the sports stuff I sold was like promo stuff and show exclusives, and you expect that stuff to go right away.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new
Mm-hmm.
heat. Um, but sold some Beavis and Butthead, some Marvel stuff, some music cards. Like, it's good. There's a lot of ways to expand on it. Um, so yeah, I think we're I watched, did you watch Jeff's video tonight where he interviewed the old Leaf guy, the guy who just sold Leaf?
I did not watch good old Geoff.
Okay. Not that I'm promoting his show by any stretch of anyone's imagination, but um, they talked a lot about the future national. So I think we'll just talk about our plans after national, right? We'll get to that topic right away.
Yeah.
Um, since it's kind of on the top of our head. He was talking about, well, you better book your hotel for next year right away or you're not going to get one and blah, 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 which you, it's to me, I don't even know that you'd be able to do it if it's more than,
Right.
we don't even know the dates. Like, I don't even think they gave us the dates for next year's yet. Obviously there's no conference housing. They haven't opened any of that up yet, of course. But anyway, I think what his point was, everybody was kind of expecting to see a little bit smaller show with it being in Cleveland, and that really wasn't the case. Um, It's coming back to Chicago, and Chicago was busy, very busy last year. Is it going to be even busier next year? And how do they handle that? And then starting to look at, they have a 3-year contract, so it's going to be at the Rosemont for the next 3 years, no matter what. Can't really do anything about that. But after that, where is it going to go? The Orlando Convention Center, the McCormick, the what's the one in Orlando, in Atlanta? It's the Metroplex or something like that it's called, where it's got, like, 300,000 square feet. I mean, these places are ginormous.
Yeah.
I've been to lots of shows at the McCormick, and it's mind-blowing, the size. Um, McCormick's in Chicago, by the way. Um, and I've been to the Orlando Convention Center, and that one's ginormous too, and very convenient, right by airports and so forth. But I worry a little bit that it's gonna get too big for its britches, to some degree. And they were talking about, well, there's so many these people who want to attend, and next year you better get your tickets right away, or you're not going to get a ticket. And I don't even think the VIP ever sold out, or at least
No, it didn't.
that they ever said. So I'm like, well, okay, well, if there's so many of these people that want to go, why is there still tickets available? And I don't know if they're overselling the show.
Probably.
I didn't feel
yeah,
like,
right.
yeah, I didn't feel like being in there, like, there was more people than the place could handle. Like, I was able to get into boxes and stuff. It was easier than Chicago to some degree, and it's a smaller venue. Where they struggled was the other portions of services, the restrooms and the food, and um,
Air
they
conditioning.
didn't. Yeah, air conditioning is always seems to be a thing. Um, so yeah, I don't know that I agree with Brian that it's going to get to that level, but we'll see. I mean, if they 10x it and do all that, maybe that would be the case. Because I remember when I started going to Comic Cons in the mid '90s, they were always at the Rosemont in Chicago, and you could walk up to the counter and buy a ticket and go in. It was no
Yeah.
big deal. And then it was like, okay, well, now there's this many people going there. You have to pre-order your autographs, and you got to pre-order your tickets, and um, and then it just got to the point where it's like, we can't even host a show here anymore. It's just too ginormous. We have to go to McCormick. Now, the bad part about going to McCormick is that's a much more expensive venue for them to book. So the tickets, of course, would go up to get there, and the hotels are extremely expensive. So when I would go for C2E2 and we'd book at a connected hotel, it was like 500 something a night.
Oof.
Yeah. So now you're going to start eliminating people who, don't want to have that in their budget to go. At least if you want to stay at a connected hotel. So it's just, I thought it was really interesting his take on it. Like, oh, they're going to have to get these bigger. And I know he has to be bullish on it. He's so, invested in this as his livelihood that these guys have to pump this stuff like it's going to be huge. But I try to live in some of the reality at least, and I just don't. And this is me coming from an experience of early Comic Cons, and think of where Comic Cons. It's relative, right? Um, if you think about where Comic Con started and then how much it had growth, and nerd culture is actually cool now, and girls go to it, and all this stuff that it wasn't when I first started doing it. I just don't see this on that same trajectory.
Okay.
Um, where I see it getting to that size, because you don't have the cosplay, you don't have, there's a lot of pieces to it that just don't don't allow it to grow to the level like Comic-Con stuff does. But I could be wrong. Now, if one of the things he brought up was Fanatics pairing with the National and them doing something like some sort of joint ticket venture, where Fanatics has this part of the show over here in the McCormick, and then the card show is over here in this part. Now I think we're talking you could get 300,000 people to go, because you're going to have people that want to go to the Fanatics and try to throw the baseball as fast as they can, and go listen to Tom Brady talk in a hall, and that kind of thing, and then also be able to go to a card show, you know really large card show experience. um so if it ever got to something of that level, Uh, maybe I could see. I shouldn't say maybe. I think if that were the case, I think we would see the growth we saw in Comic Cons because that's basically what Comic Cons did, right? So the first year I went, it was all like Alex Ross drawing Spider-Man and, the Marvel artists and the DC booth and that kind of thing. Then it kind of got into like toys and exclusive action
Yeah.
figures, because that was big at the time. And then it started to be like, well, the cast of the new Batman movie is going to be here. And, Kevin Smith is coming to do a live show. And like, then it grew to these things, that made it what it is today. Because as big as this show was, and this was your first kind of big show, really,
Right.
um, it is it doesn't even touch like 10% of San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah.
You know, um, where you're talking like walking city blocks worth of space to get to things, and just the number of events going on at night, and all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, so this has a world to grow into yet, which is good. That means there's a lot of space for it. Um, but I just don't know. I don't really see the same trajectory he does, as far as it becoming that. But we'll see. So
Yeah.
what's your take? What's your take on it? I know you're newer in it, and especially in the big show kind of area. But
Yeah, I could see what you're saying about Comic Con. I think the reach of Comic Con is maybe a little bigger. Because Comic Con has made its way into the pop culture lexicon, right? Like you
and
hear about it.
mainstream.
Yeah, yeah,
Who doesn't know who Wolverine is? When I was a kid and talked about Wolverine, my friends are like, I don't know what the hell that is.
right, right. So you have I think a broader base of people that look to congregate on that. Whereas the NSCC, I think, there are diehards for that, but the scope of the fan base is more limited. So you talked about Cleveland really didn't turn out to be that much smaller, the way people thought it might be. That's interesting to me just because I heard so much of that leading up to it. And I would say Thursday and Friday, well, Saturday was probably the busiest day, right? But I also would say that Thursday when I went in, or Wednesday night for the early access,
Hmm.
like there was a rush for it a little bit. Like you talk about getting the boxes, I felt a little crowded at boxes that first night just because I think people had the same idea, right? Get to the boxes
Yep.
first. But after that,
They all have our idea.
right.
So.
But I did feel after that like it did open up. Were there tables I walked by because I didn't want to fight through a crowd? Sure, but there was always another table,
Mhm.
2 or 3 away that I could get to and then come back to something later. So, um,
Well, and for what we do, time management is so important, right? If
right,
if you wait a half hour to get into a box at someone's table, that's a half hour you could have been in a box somewhere else, and
right,
and
right.
finding other opportunities. So, and that's why I really like having Ethan go with as a scout. I've been doing
Yeah,
that for a few years now, and it sounds kind of weird, but it's extremely helpful. Just
yeah,
to have him get out, and he knows what he's doing for the most part, and I can second, double check things if he's grabbing soccer stuff, he doesn't know soccer, I can double check that stuff. Um, but yeah, I almost feel like this is a 3-day con now, and instead of it being a Thursday, Friday, or a Friday, Saturday, Sunday convention, which is how all conventions originally started, or big
mhm,
shows, card shows, whatever you want to call it. It's really a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday show.
yeah.
I actually think I think the busiest day there was Thursday.
You think so?
Yes, and the reason I say that is because I guess Saturday, as far as like single ticket
Yeah,
days, it was the biggest. It was parents with kids. You could see the parents sitting at the bar, and the
yeah.
kids would run around and get their Pokemon packs and whatever. So there was that. But I would say, as far as like what we do, I think Thursday was the busiest.
Yeah, I think that's fair when you talk about, people that are there to dig boxes and stuff. Saturday was more of the general masses coming
Mhm.
in, and but to go back to your comments before about, could it get too big for its own good? I don't know that they would be concerned about that. I know it would change how I approach it if it got that big. If you're talking, like McCormick and $500 a night, I wouldn't be staying, in a joined hotel.
Right. Right.
You might still be, and we'd be linking up the next morning when we get there. But heck no, I wouldn't. I would still be staying someplace more economical, so that my money's going to the cards, not the hotel, right?
Well, and
Um,
I even did that one year with C2E2. I stayed at like a Red Roof Inn or something,
yeah,
which was Chicago's just atrocious if you're for driving and parking and stuff.
yeah,
And it was like I paid $30 every day to park, and then I paid another, so many dollars at the other hotel. And the hotel wasn't really that much cheaper at the time. It was like 2 something, which I know I just said $500, but that's current price.
yeah,
So I think
yeah,
at that show, I think the price was like 350 or 360 to stay at the Connected Hotel, and I was paying like 250, 275, I wanna say.
yeah,
But then $30, and then you pay for parking at the event because McCormick charges for parking
yeah,
besides. So I had parking there, and then, just yeah, every time Red Roof charged each day to park there, just to park where at your hotel room, and it was just a horrible in and out, and you had to give some guy your car because you had to, drive 2 blocks down to park it in some abandoned lot, you
yeah,
know? Um, it really didn't seem much advantage to not stay on site. You were maybe saving 50 to $60 a day, but added all the hassle. And that's also coming from a different perspective. I had costumes to haul back and forth. That's a little
that's
r
different. Yeah,
yeah, a little bit different, but,
yeah,
there's shady parts of Chicago, dude. Don't forget that.
yeah. But I
Um,
don't think I don't think the National would be concerned about any of that, to be honest.
yeah.
Because I think they have a captive audience. I think
Mhm.
they know that no matter where we go, we're gonna make money. Where the money goes, everything follows, right? So they've proven a model that they're gonna make enough money every year that I think they're at a point it doesn't matter where they have it or when they have it.
Well, to me, I think the smarter decision would be to not have one. So if you look at the major again, I comparing it to Comic Cons because that's the thing that makes the most sense, right? Um, but you have San Diego Comic Con, which of course is the king, so you could
Yeah,
still have like your but then there's also like C2E2 and there's a big, convention in Dallas and there's all these other ones. And I know there's other big card shows too, but uh, there's a New York Comic Con. There's a bunch of them. I almost think they'd have to get to a point where you just kinda have to split it up and let people go to whatever is their best source for a show.
yeah, I don't know. I still think of it as each region has its, super regional event, but
Mhm,
there's still one national.
mhm. And I think that's my point. I don't know that that's or they have to come up with this is our permanent location, this is our weekend like San Diego, right? San
Yeah,
Diego is the king, but you're not gonna have San Diego Comic Con in Orlando next year. You
right,
have to,
right,
um the only exception to that would be like Star Wars Celebration. That has a different location it was every 3 years they did that show, but of course they, smell the money. Now they do it every year or every other year if it's international.
right.
But yeah, they're going it's in Japan next time, so they move that thing around pretty good. And that gets about 175 to 200,000 attendees.
Okay.
And the last one was at the McCormick in 2019, the last United States one, and, it's filled. I mean, they fill it, even for the, venue that size. So, I don't know, it'll be really interesting to see where it goes from here. I don't know that you also have to believe that you're gonna have these size crowds for, like, long time, like, long
And
term.
and I think they do.
So, and I believe that more now than I did because I was around in the 91, 92 boom. I mean, like that Anaheim show in 91 where they had like 160,000 people attend or whatever. That was the peak right there. And everybody was like, "Oh, this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger." And that was not the case at all.
Okay.
This show had gotten down to maybe 40 or 50,000 attending for a few years. Um, but things are different. You have a lot more kids involved. When you get younger people involved, that really changes it. You
It
have
does.
the constant liquidity, right? You can get it in and out of a card in the same day. That was not really a thing. It's not the like old guy hobby anymore, where it's just, it's only Joe DiMaggio cards on auction that, do anything. It's There's a lot more pop culture portion added into it. The athletes are getting more involved. You had Bo Jackson there pushing his own card product. There
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of that at that time. So I do believe it's got that kind of staying power um, to continue as big shows. I just don't know that you're going to go from like these tickets didn't even sell out for this show, right? I still go back to that. And this is not a very big venue. In the world of convention venues, it's not. So if you're starting going, okay, well, we didn't even really sell out Cleveland. Now we're going to try to go to McCormick. McCormick is probably 2.5 times the size of Cleveland.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't think they're making a quick jump to it, but I think
right. Well, they
if
can't have contracts. So,
yeah, but I think I do see a future where that could happen.
mhm. And right. And I think that's just and that's kind of what he was talking about was like, oh, we could get to this. We could get to that. Um, the Rosemont Convention Center does a great job handling the current crowd.
Yeah.
So I think these next 3 years will kind of be a test to see, well, what else do we need? Now the Chicago show does sell out, or it did last year. So I anticipate that happening again. There's just more people that go to that show than would go to the Cleveland show. So location matters too.
Yeah.
You're gonna get more attendees because of where it is.
The other
Uh,
thing I would say too, with a forward-looking mindset on this is I think Fanatics is doing a great job engaging the youth to continue interest in this hobby. They're catering to the tastes of the younger collector, and that is building a strong future for this to continue growing.
and I think you brought up the perfect pairing to the national show, and that's the Fanatics show.
Yeah.
So the Fanatics show, that might be our San Diego Comic Con, right? Because they're gonna have Tom Brady's gonna be there and
Mhm.
speaking and doing all this, and it's like I said, it's gonna be how fast can you throw a baseball, machines, and like all this stuff, right? Like the National Card Show doesn't really do that, and I'm glad they don't. I hope they keep that stuff away, to be honest with you. I know they did like the 3-on-3 basketball tournament in years past. I don't even think they did that this year. I don't remember seeing any basketball court type stuff or anything like
No.
that. Um, but I'm hoping that that's going to kind of balance that out, right? So if you want to be more of the, you know, see the athletes speak and have stuff to do and, fan experience type stuff like you would at the Super Bowl show or, the baseball all-star experience, things like that, that Fanatics can provide that. And then just keep this, a card show for hobbyists. Um, I think if they do that, then I think there's a lot more room to grow then because then you can kind of have both experiences and people can sort of choose which one works for them.
It's actually funny as I got more familiar with the show and the history, and it's it struck me at a certain point. I was kind of not misled, misguided. I just had a misunderstanding of the show. For the longest time, I thought it was the National Sports Card Collectors convention, but they don't talk about cards in the name. It's just sports collectors,
Correct.
any sports collectibles, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's interesting that cards have become kind of the elephant in the room
Hmm.
that really is the mainstay. I mean, yes, there's the bats, there's the gloves, there's the signed jerseys and all that stuff. You could find that whatever you wanted, but the cards are the thing, man.
Yeah, cards are king, and it's always been that way. I mean, that's how the beauty of this hobby, and I tell this to people all the time, is you can get cards for a penny, or you can get cards for $20 million. I
Right.
don't know of any other hobby that has a open door to anyone in any income level, and that does matter. I mean, that matters when you have kids. That matters when you have rich people want to get in with rich cards. They don't want to buy penny cards. You've got people who are like, I just like this player and I'm happy to get 20-cent cards of this player because that's fun. That's how I can participate in the hobby and afford that, with my lifestyle and everything else I have going on. Like us doing low end cards, right? There's a space
Yeah.
for us to run an entire business doing it. Yeah, and I had a blast at the National. I thought it was a great show. I thought the dealers were really good. I love the stuff on display. I just released my video yesterday, so if any of you haven't seen it yet, check it out. I tried to put a lot of other experiences in there. A video of they had the Ninja Turtles heads from the movie, and they had all the Power Ranger stuff, and there's a lot. There's a lot more than cards, and
Yeah.
I think to your comment, um, I think a lot of people think it's just a card show, and
Yeah,
there is only
exactly.
cards.
Yeah.
And it's really not that. There is a lot of other things going. Wild Cards booth does a fun job of having different things going on and spinning wheels, and they had celebrity cards, and um, there's experiences to be had there, and it is worth your time and your investment to go, even if you're not a giant card person, or that
Yeah.
or that's all you do. There's other things. I think the biggest disappointment, well, there's obviously logistics disappointments in this show, which I knew there would be. Um, but I think the biggest disappointment to me was that a lot of the vendors couldn't bring a lot of their stuff. They just didn't have any way to get it there to really store it. I felt bad for some of the vendors, trying to close up at night, and they're just trying to cover their stuff and get out of there. And it's like there's still people walking around that can just grab
Yeah.
your stuff. If I were a dealer, I would hate to have been there because of that. Now, if you're a dime box seller, you probably don't really care if you got to cover up a few monster boxes and walk away, but you got autographed Babe Ruth memorabilia and you don't have anywhere to go with it. That's a problem,
Right.
So
Right.
I really don't see this show being at venues like that ever again. It's too big. They couldn't handle the driving crowds and things like that. We're definitely past those convention centers. I'm not saying location wise, I'm not saying Cleveland was bad by any measure, but um, they have to get to conventions. Maybe there's a bigger convention center in Cincinnati, and if they still want to bring
Yeah.
it to the Ohio region, there's another place they could go with it. But that place just does not work for the size and scale and scope of what this needs to be.
So it's interesting. I was watching your video, and thinking about my own comments I put out on my content about it. And also, I was talking with Bargain Boxer a little bit, over my content, different perspectives of the logistics of the show. I will tell you, as a first timer, I really didn't have a problem with the logistics of the show. Where it's at, where the hotels were, um, you know, all of those things that I hear others complain about. It was kind of what I expected, to be honest. And I didn't know any better. Like, I haven't been
Hmm.
to a show that's been better, right? So it's interesting to hear the feedback from folks about the things they didn't like about it, because as if you don't know, it doesn't bother you, right? Like, I go to the state fair, I stand in lines. I go, to an opening. I remember going to the opening of Star Wars, the new three trilogies, and waiting in line at midnight, for 2 hours. Like, that's just what you expect on some of this stuff. So I didn't know better to even be disappointed. we even Bargain Boxer and I were talking about the line to get our VIP stuff, and I think I said in my content, I think it went pretty well. It went like in maybe 30 minutes, and Bargain Boxer's like, no, it was over an hour. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
I guess I had good conversation that made it go by pretty fast, you know?
Well, and some of it is just, you're a pretty laid back dude, and I am too. I think we all dealt with this stuff just fine,
Yeah,
throughout the weekend. But when you do have an experience outside, that has been better than that, it does it does lead into some disappointment. I don't know how it
yeah,
couldn't,
yeah,
and and you'll see this next year. Now we built up Chicago so big, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I thought this was gonna be easy," and I had to wait in line at the bathroom for 2
right?
people, and I was told I could just piss on the wall, but, um, it just the logistics never come into play in Chicago. You can literally
Yeah,
just get around and do whatever you wanna do. Now, I'm not gonna say there isn't lines for stuff, of course there is.
yeah,
You wanna spin the wheel at Wildcard and there's 3 purchasers in front of you, well, you're gonna wait to spin the wheel, you know?
yeah,
That is it is assumed that there's some, everybody at Blowout Cards is helping somebody, you're gonna have to wait to buy your boxes, there but 2 hours to get chicken strips? No. That can't an hour to wait to use the bathroom? No. You can't have stuff like that. Now we had VIP. Think about what your experience would be
true.
if you didn't
Yeah,
have VIP,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Um, that would be a way no go. So, um, yeah, I if this is gonna get bigger every year, it cannot go back to that Cleveland Convention Center. It
I
cannot.
could see that.
There's
Yeah,
no there's no way. There's no way that you could do that. So, and you have to remember there's fire codes, there's capacities. They shut down one of the card shows or trade nights or something this year again due to fire code stuff. So, there's real problems with some of that. What if there is a fire and everybody's got to get out? Like you can't do that to people, What if somebody has a big bathroom emergency and they can't wait in line for an hour? I mean it could get bad. Um so I don't know. We'll see kind of where it goes, but I think it's good to be. I think it's a good problem to be like, where do we go? We need more room. That's better than like nobody showed up. you
for
know,
sure. Yeah,
this is an issue.
yep,
But you also have to think about dealers, right? There's so many dealers who want to get space and they couldn't even get tables.
yeah.
That doesn't make
But they
sense.
kind
Why?
of want that to some extent, right? To make it feel special.
Sure. Uh,
Every show wants to be sold out.
Right, but I think if you can get more space and you have the dealers to fill that space, why wouldn't you do that?
You always want to oversell.
So, I think it's outgrown that place, and they knew it too, and I don't even know that they necessarily still wanted to have it there, but it was an old contract, and um, you just had to kind of get through it. And when the lines were what it was on Thursday and it was such a problem, I was like, "Man, it's not even Friday and Saturday yet. What are they gonna
Yeah.
do?" And I think they did a great job
They made
recovering.
adjustments. Yep.
Recovering, yes. And, it seemed to, ease itself out a little bit after that, but, um, yeah, the biggest problem with Chicago is the damn air conditioning, so they need to
Yeah.
fix that problem. That was a big issue last year for a lot of people.
That's all I really hear about the negatives of Chicago.
Yeah, otherwise everything else is fantastic. As long as you can get your hotel, that's the one extra challenge, but, we're kind of in a good position with that with my membership stuff, but yeah, so, I'm looking forward to next year. I think it's gonna be really, really nice. I love the venue. I know it very well. I know where my dealers are. I feel like that's an advantage. I can get my Giordano's pizza delivered to my door, and I'm
Yeah,
set for the week.
Donna's.
My Giordano's, my little sports bar. Hopefully, they have the horror convention again there because that was fun to be paired with that last year.
I didn't hear
Um,
about that.
yeah, we were walking to the convention, and there's people dressed as killer clowns from outer space, and I was sitting at the bar, and Billy from Gremlins was at the other end of the bar talking to one of the guys who played Jason in one of the movies, and
That's awesome.
um, so there's a guy in the lobby selling shrunken heads. It's just
Like
a
from
it's
Beetlejuice.
yeah, I think he's just like a prop guy, but just huge lobbies. You can sit and trade with anyone, at any time, and it's just it's great. You're gonna add to there's gonna be things you can add to your experience that you didn't know were missing, I guess is
Sure.
probably the best way to put it. Trade nights, right there. Um, you're not gonna get kicked out of your VIP room so they can host a trade night. You better not.
Yeah.
I didn't care for that.
I didn't
Um,
either.
so there was just a lot of things that really could have been a lot better. Um,
You
and
know what I
again,
really didn't care
no
about?
knock to them. It's just they can't handle what was going on.
Yeah. The thing that really irked me about getting kicked out for the trade night
Mhm.
is when we were literally on the fringe. Like I think we were just eating a sandwich. I was eating a sandwich or something
Yeah. Mhm.
before going back out, and they're like, "We got to get out of here, guys." And I'm like, "Seriously? There's 200 tables that way, you know?"
Well, my opinion on that one, I think they created a problem where there didn't need to be a problem.
Right, exactly.
Any VIPs that wanted to be in the trade night should have been able to just stay.
Yeah.
Why kick us out, make us go line up to come in to trade that was stupid. I didn't get that at all. Like,
And what
you
did they
needed to
really change in the setup for trade night? That was their
right.
excuse. "Oh, we gotta reset for
Get
trade
ready
night."
for yeah. Uh, I don't know. I didn't understand that. As a VIP, you should have access to
Yeah,
basically everything,
yeah,
and, you know but again, that was at a certain time, and that's a venue that has to close at a certain time, and they need to get stuff taken care of and move on and for the night, and so even if it wasn't a trade night, they would have still had to boot everybody out eventually, whereas,
yeah.
again, in Chicago, they don't have to do that because everything is connected to it, so, I don't know, I'm the next 3 years are gonna be glorious having it back at Chicago. Hopefully, they don't oversell the tickets to try to make more money, um, and, yeah, when tickets go on sale, buy a ticket. That's your best way to be like, "Well, is it gonna sell out? Who cares? If as long as you buy one right away, it won't
Right.
matter. You'll be in." So, that's gonna be my plan, and, it's a great show, great way to pick up a lot of inventory, a lot of great dealers. I thought prices were pretty good for the most part. I'm still having trouble trying to get more into the mid end. I just don't find as good of deals in the boxes. Finding
Yeah.
space on the cards is tougher. I did like the 5 4 3 2 1 dealer. I thought that was a cool idea. I picked up some stuff on the $2 day and the $1 day. Um, so I'm kind of hoping that maybe expands to some more dealers and they try some of that because I was able to find some room on a little bit more expensive cards
Mhm.
as the price dropped each day. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. But I was happy to pick up a lot of stuff at 2 cents a piece too, and and just make my money on that.
Right.
That has never really done me wrong. Okay. Let's see. Should we get to chat? We're probably like super behind on this. We've got
Yeah, let's get
24
them on it.
people in here right now. So again, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Live 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Me, Charlie, and Stu Meister, the goat, the one-eared goat. I've got the two-eared version. Charlie has the official
Yeah.
one. Ooh,
I
he kind of wimped out on us.
He is, yeah. He's running a little weak. That's all he's got.
He might need new batteries, bro. He needs an ear and some batteries. He's had a rough
Yeah,
trip.
yeah.
All right. Troy is here. He says, good evening. Good evening to you as well. You are our first one on here. So you are our producer and our
Our
moderator.
executive
Have fun with
producer.
that. Executive producer. I was actually an executive producer on a Star Wars show. I don't know if you knew that.
I think
I
you
got
did mention that.
yeah, I got producer credits for that. I didn't go into it with that, but that's how and I'm in the IMDb too. So which is kind of fun.
Did you
Hey
hear
boys,
the
good evening.
Did you hear the
Huh?
new Star Wars release
Hmm.
overdubbed in the Ojibwe language?
Okay. I mean,
And
yeah, makes
they're
sense,
the
I guess.
local guy that has a part in it as Red Leader.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I don't do much new Star Wars. I'm not much of a fan anymore. So I'm an original
Well,
trilogy guy.
these are the original trilogy. They're
Right, just a new
re-released
dub.
for
Right, just a
dub.
new
Yep.
dub.
Mhm.
Yeah. Kind of surprised it took this long, actually. I would
Right.
have thought it would be basically in every language at this point.
Well, I think that's
Let's
the
see.
thing. The Ojibwe language is they're trying to restore its prominence. They
Mhm.
feel like it's fading as generations go on.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. The stuff my kid watches is not the stuff I watch.
Right.
You know what I showed her yesterday, and she still hasn't gotten over this. Do you remember doing the pigeon? Bert and Ernie doing the pigeon. Wah wah. And it was this little dance where he kind of like you know cocked his leg back a little bit and stuff. Oh my
Don't
gosh,
remember.
she lost it watching that. And I'm like, that was just it was just universally known by everyone in our generation because we all watched Sesame Street. What was the other option? You know,
I remember Rubber Ducky.
Rubber Duck, right? Yeah, and we
Yeah.
kind of said that one too, like Rubber Ducky or the one. Like we all
Yeah.
knew the song. All right. Troy says he's all for it. He's going to take care of us tonight, so that's good. Joe says nice new background, Mr. Charles.
Yeah, that's pure laziness. That is, I had my green screen up because I was doing some YouTube content yesterday and I just haven't taken it down. And got home from practice and I said, I'm just going to leave it up for the show and use a green screen background.
I was going to ask you how long did it take for you to glue all those
Put all
cards
those cards up.
to
Yeah.
your window? Yeah, I
I've been
mean
working on it since we started this show
that's
last
some
year.
that's some dedication. Uh, Logical Collectibles is here. Welcome to the show. Hey, I bought a 30,000 card collection yesterday. Found 10 Patrick Mahomes rookies. Oh, geez. Okay. And over 32nd year of him, and that's just the top of the iceberg. OMG. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
fantastic. I don't know what you paid for it. That obviously would
That's the
matter,
real
but
question, right?
right, right. Did this person know there was the Pat Mahomes in there, and you kind of had to pay up to get him? But yeah, you can't go wrong with his stuff. That's for sure. Troy dipped my hand in Pokemon last weekend, and so far it's been a success. Only took me a year to listen to my wife. How Pokemon makes more money. I've heard that before too, and
Yeah.
I don't think anything makes more money. It's how you're doing your transactions that are going to make you the money.
Yeah.
Um, because let's say, oh, well, Pokemon sells for more. Yeah, well, guess what? You have to pay more for it. So, margins are what matters. But yeah, definitely, Pokemon is something you can make money on, and it's a great thing to expand into. I'm sticking with my Batman and my Beavis and Butthead and my
There we go.
music cards, and yep, that's as far as I want to go. I do a little bit of TCG. I went into some ponies just because it's part of kind of what I like to buy and sell. But yeah, there's enough market for a lot of different things, and Pokemon is certainly part of that. Joe wants to know, Adam have most. Oh, he called me Adam. Nobody calls me Adam. Everyone just calls me Dollar Bucks. Nobody even knows my real name.
Or
Uh,
Cooter.
Adam, yeah, or Cooter, yeah, right. Have most of your non-sport Are most of your non-sport buyers international? Buyers are for some reason. No, I very rarely have any international non-sport buyers. I get a lot of international soccer and a few basketball. That's generally who my non-sport or my international is. And lately, most of my international buyers have had me post to like ship my cards. So I'm sending them in the US anyway, or they have a US address. Um, and I kind of experienced that a lot when I was selling on Shopify. I kind of go back to the Star Wars thing. I have a lot of international buyers on Shopify who would have a US address I would ship to, and then they would get all their packages sent at one time overseas. Um, So international customers are getting more savvy on how to save on some of those shipping expenses.
Right.
Joe says, let's help the boys out here, all the hard work and time they put in every Wednesday, and hit that thumbs up button. It definitely helps the channel. Sometimes when I see a thumbs up, it reminds me of that Steve Irwin bit. You remember that? That there was a joke a comedian did about Steve Irwin and like, oh, look at that alligator. See how close I can't do an Australian accent. So you're going to have to just sort of put this in your head. I'm going to take that alligator. I'm going to shove my thumb right up its ass, you know? And
No, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
that one.
Sometimes when I see that, it makes me think of that. Like, yeah, take this thumbs up and put it. Yeah. Anyway, I have a very odd sense of humor. So, yes, please give this a traditional thumbs up that you like it. And for those who are watching recorded, thanks for jumping on. Try to join us live if you can. Wednesdays, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. Uh, Also, share the video if you know somebody else you think would like it. Share it on over. Hopefully, they'll watch and join us in the future. And thanks for that, Joe. I appreciate it. Do you think they should have a modern national card show with the added breakers and then a separate vintage one? Well, this is kind of what we started talking about. Was like, so San Diego Comic Con again, going back to the Comic Cons, right? Because that's kind of our model for this type of hobby culture, pop culture type show. San Diego Comic Con is the show where everybody goes for like movie premieres and the big actors. I mean, it's in San Diego, so it makes sense, right? California. But that's when like new shows that are coming out have big pop-up venues there of
Yep.
experiences and stuff like that. So that's what that is. Then you have like D23, which is sort of the Disney version of San Diego Comic-Con with all of Disney stuff pumping up. Then you've got C2E2 in Chicago, which is the big kind of cosplay convention, right? Then you've got New York Comic-Con, which is more traditional, like you can actually buy comic books there. I know, shocking, right? Um, and then the Mile High one, which is like Denver area, of course, and that has like more traditional comics and stuff. So yeah, it could grow to the point where you have like, and that's kind of what I was trying to point out with Fanatics. Like Fanatics is going to do more of the San Diego type thing where they're going to bring in new athletes and announce the big news and that kind of thing. And then, and LeBron will be there. And, LeBron's not going to come to the National Card Show. Okay.
Right.
Sorry, people, if that's what you were hoping for at some point. Not going to happen. Well, maybe like 30 years down the road when he's retired and has nothing else to do. Who knows? But yeah, I think we could split into, I don't know that there'd necessarily be a breakers convention. That would be a pretty boring convention. But yeah, maybe something like that where it's more of okay, well, this one is just traditional cards, right? It's just people who want to go and buy cards, sell cards, complete their sets, do that kind of thing. This one's more um, focused on like content creation, right? Because this is a big area. This hobby has a lot of that type of experiences. This one's going to be more the big fanatics one where they can get the big athletes and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I am not going to the Fanatics show, which I believe is next weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how that first one goes. It's in New York. It was really expensive.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make much sense, especially right after the national. So your question is, do I think they should have a modern national card show? I don't have an opinion on that one way or another. There was plenty of modern cards at this show that we were just at. So Uh, and a lot of the new, and a lot of the card companies were there. Wildcard was selling brand new products that have never been released. Leaf had some brand new products, and um, Tops was there with some of their brand new products. So I don't think modern was missing at this show. There is a good side of vintage to this, as a lot of those dealers have been doing this for 40 years. But I think I I don't think you can just turn your back on vintage. I think that would be a
Yeah.
big mistake. Our hobby is built on that, and it needs to have a place at pretty much every show, in my opinion, other than breaking, because you're not going to break 1952 Bowman likely ever. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know if we understand their question correctly. I kind of went down the the idea of, do we have separate nationals, one for
Hmm.
modern and breaking and one for vintage. I don't know that there's a need to split them out. I
No.
think I think the collectors definitely, for the most part, the diehards, they're going one way or the other, and they don't
Hmm.
necessarily mix. People like me mix together, but I do think I do think the breakers got to be in their own section. Like all that noise and craziness is like the polar opposite of the typical vintage scene that I've seen anyway, in my experience
Right.
so far. So I think the event has to separate them out, which I thought Cleveland did a good job of that. I don't know what the Chicago layout is typically like, but it's hard for me to imagine having separate big shows for those categories.
Yeah, I agree. And hopefully next time when I want to interview someone, they don't put their booth right next to the Whatnot, the Breaker Bowl and the Whatnot stage, because that was not good at all for
Yeah,
interview
yeah,
sake.
that's loud.
Um, so I apologize for some of the audio. I've definitely got comments on that, but my little microphone did the best it could. But yeah, there's definitely elements to this show where it's the hoorah rah and the modern, you know, breaker culture type stuff. Backyard breaks is kind of the thing that comes to mind with that. And then just more of the old casual, guys with signed baseballs dealers, and I think that's the beauty of the show is the range that it offers. Again, I said that the most unique thing in this hobby is you can get cards for a penny and you can get
Yeah,
cards for $12 million. And you know what? They have all of them at that show. And I think that's the whole point, right? So you can go get your brand new packs for 20 bucks. You can buy a case of Exquisite for $100,000, or you can buy a new pack of tops for 3 bucks. Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
right.
There's a kids trading area. There's really something for everyone, and I think that
Yeah,
it's super important to keep that. If you're going to call it the National Card Show, it really needs to have something for everyone.
to
I
cater
saw
to
a
everyone.
lot There was a lot more kids at the show this year than I'd ever seen before. I saw a lot more girls at the show looking for Caitlin Clark stuff and, things that they, you know, athletes they can admire because they're more like them. Uh, eh, and I think that stuff, all the World Cup women's team was there. That was really
Yeah.
cool. So there was a lot more things for sort of some of the expanded sports than ever had been before. And I think probably the thing they did the best this year with the show, was I felt like there was actually more range. There was a lot more things for everyone. And you can't, I think like just having a traditional, or what you refer to as a vintage show, I don't know that that's going to get the draw that it wants. And I don't know just having a breaker show is gonna get the draw that it wants,
Right.
or a modern show. I think it's important that they all have their own place. That's where Cleveland struggles because it's basically just a big giant box of a room. It's hard to separate those things. Chicago, can do that. Chicago has areas where it's just the breakers and you're never gonna hear them. It's got more like rooms, if you wanna call it that, uh, in that in that convention center, and you'll see that at more bigger at the bigger convention centers. You have to remember the Cleveland IX Center is not a convention center; it's an airport, and they basically just took the planes and the hangars and the machines out of it and put booths in it. So it's not. It was never designed to do what it just did this past weekend. So they do as good a job as they can with what they have. Dave says I was to previous nationals at the IX Center in Cleveland with entrances on both sides of the convention center. Everything ran much
Okay.
smoother.
That would have made a
Yeah, and
difference.
I remember we tried to on Wednesday. Remember, Charlie?
Tried to go
We
out on
tried to
the other
leave
side.
out that other side. Ethan and I were going to do that because we thought the same thing, and they were trying to like regulate the security. I think was the big part of it. We just had stuff happen in Dallas and that kind of thing, and I think they just really didn't want people being able to escape one side or the other without, the security measures really being able to be met. Um, Now I kind of thought about that with, like when the escalator broke and stuff,
Mhm.
and I was like, dude, you're gonna have to open that back. Like they're gonna run into problems where they're like, if there's a fire, they're screwed. They're not gonna be able to get enough people in and out, and I don't know. To me, that was probably the biggest problem there was just, well, how are they going to handle a crowd if something happens? And I don't think they would have been able to do a very good job of it, just because of how the place was laid out. And they, I guess they could have opened the back and let people out back there, but um,
I mean, there were plenty of emergency exits, but I
mhm.
the in case of emergency, I think there would have been a bad element that would have had a field day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been, yeah, looting. And you know what?
Yeah.
That would, in Cleveland's defense, that would have probably been at any venue. To be honest with you, people would have
True.
grabbed and go.
Uh-huh.
But I tend to agree with you here, Dave. We were kind of looking for that ourselves on Wednesday. And we were like, oh man, we got to go right in the front, especially with the parking, right? So you parked way in the back and you had to walk all the way into the front to get in. And um, yeah, I don't know that we're going to see a Cleveland IX. If the crowds are staying to this size and we see growth, I don't know that IX will get the show again. I just don't think it can handle it. Let's see. Dan is here. It was a pleasure meeting Dan at the show and getting to go
Yeah.
out for some dinner. I
And
got to tell a
Yingling.
lot of, yeah, Yingling. I got to tell a lot of really bad jokes that I can't say on the air, so he had to kind of deal with me. But I think we were all a little goofy at that point as well. But yeah, it was fun. It was great. And where's my FARF card? I'm gonna show that. I just had it like a second ago. Yeah, he pulled a really nice FARF card that he gave me for my PC. So I was pretty
Was that a wild card?
yeah. Where did I put it? I just had it.
Well, that didn't take long.
Yeah, right. I've got like 6 stacks of stuff I'm working on here right now because I got in the middle of converting some of my old inventory to my new inventory system, and yeah, it's a whole thing. Oh, yeah, I bet this is it.
Did you find it?
Yeah, it was under some Iron Maiden stickers. Um, yeah, here's the card. It's like I know I just moved it. I got this lovely little wild card here. Let me see if I can go solo.
There you go.
So it's numbered out of 25, one of 25. So I was pretty excited about that. Wildcard stuff is just sick. And now that everybody's finally over the unlicensed versus licensed thing for the most part, it's nice. The growth of that place is unbelievable compared to, the first year they were back a few years ago.
Bad, yeah.
It was basically just me and Ethan going to visit the wild card booth. Nobody else cared. So and it was busy. Yeah, every time we were over there, it was busy. There were people
It
interested
was.
in the stuff and buying products, and yeah, they were pretty awesome. But anyway, where was I? Oh, right here. Evening all. Hope got caught up on all our pickup videos from you both soon. Yeah, we did our best to kind of get our videos out. I had a lot of hours of video content. I didn't want to make like, here's my Wednesday show video, here's my Thursday show video. There just isn't enough like day separating type things. I just kind of wanted to put something together to sort of give you my whole experience. And I think everybody shows here's the Kobe 1 of 1 autograph card in a case. I really tried to put some things in there to kind of give you some other flavors of the show. I didn't have video of Dan looking at my 1,000 stripe at Wildcard for some reason. So I don't know if I just didn't have my camera on or didn't download or what,
Hmm.
but that was about the only other thing I wanted to add into it that I didn't have. But yeah. So hopefully, yeah, enjoy those JC3 cards and collectibles. He's got his show review up. I did watch your video, Charlie. Unlike you, I do watch your videos. And
Whatever.
and it's pretty darn good. I was like, this is kind of his first like big, you know, whole week's culmination of activity. Let's see how he puts a video out. And I thought you did a good job. I was entertained by it. I
Well,
wanted to
good.
hear more. I wanted to hear more complaints about bathrooms and complaints about getting kicked out for trade night. Like you fell short. You fall short on the baddies. You got to put the baddies in there.
I showed plenty of wild
Um,
card though.
yeah. Well, you spent plenty at wild card.
I did. I did. It
Ethan
sucked
and
me
I
in.
Ethan and I talked them up so much, and you were easily double, triple us at that location. It was kind of funny.
Once I
Um,
got hooked on that Decades set, it was all downhill.
yep, yeah, I could tell. So,
I did
uh,
sell the Natalie Portman this week.
you did. I'm not too
Yeah,
surprised at that. Did you
yeah.
hear? Oh no, it wasn't Natalie Portman. It's the girl who played Ray. Did you see she's got that like dead man's disease or whatever the heck that's called?
No.
Yeah, she just got diagnosed this week. Ridley, what's
Yeah.
her name? Daisy Ridley.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I felt pretty bad for her. So, hence the all the weight loss and stuff like that, it's part of that disease, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So hopefully they figure it out and she's okay for a long time. We'll see. Um, there is a Toronto Comic Con. Yes, there's also a large card show in Canada too. Focuses a lot on hockey. So you can see card shows are kind of getting some different national spot. I know there's one, The National, but there's other like bigger shows that are really kind of finding their niche in what they're gonna do in the card hobby. Kind of like San Diego Comic Con is not the national comic convention, but that's how what they do with C2E2 in Green Bay is not the national cosplay convention, but that's what it becomes. Like they each kind of get their own hold on what they specialize in, and so makes sense in Canada to really focus on the hockey products.
Toronto, where they filmed the exterior scenes of what movie?
Ah, Christmas Story, my
A
friends.
Christmas Story.
Yeah, we went to the museum and the house there, and it was amazing. It was a great way to finish out the week. I'm really glad we did that. So this year, when we go to Chicago, we're going to add in the Home Alone house, which is about 20 minutes north of the convention, and we're north of there anyway. So kind of on the way for us. So I'm excited about that one. That's not as cool because it's not a museum and they don't have like all the interactive stuff in the house and the props and all that. Somebody owns the house. So it's basically just taking a picture with the house, but it'll still be fun. There was one sports card dealer there, and I'm sure he made a killing. At the Toronto Comic Con? Yeah, that makes sense. You're almost better off selling sports cards at a non-sports card show. Like just like I'm sure dealers who are selling non-sports cards at this sports card show did very well. Um, yeah, if you're kind of the one selling the odd thing, that tends to be a decent plan. Let's see. Uh, Asol cards. I'm probably always saying that wrong, but I never get corrected, so I'm going to continue to go with it.
I
Is
never
here. He
get
says,
corrected.
never get corrected. I'm just going to keep doing it. Um, what's up, fellas? Joe is here. Was a long time ago, but once I went to a card show that shared convention space with some kind of mechanical dinosaurs alive event down the hall. Kidorama. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, card shows were in like a back room of a bowling alley. And there was 15 tables, and it was everybody selling their stupid little tops update sets and junk like that. And I loved it and hated it all at the same time because the effort was so poor. Nothing was run well. I remember paying like $1 entry. This was long, like I'm 47 years old, so this was a long time ago. And I can remember paying $1 to get into one of these shows once. I'm like, you're gonna charge me to go to this thing? Um, so yeah, it's amazing how much how far things have come. Baseball card curmudgeon is here. What's up, fellows? Enjoyed both of your national videos. Thank you so much. Uh, the good and the bad. You just do the best you can when you're at something like that. And my real job there is to dig in the boxes and find inventory. So I'm not a content creator first. So I try to do as best I can. Um, with the video I can get and the audio I can get. But I was pretty pretty happy with the videos. I really think both of ours came out pretty nice.
Yeah.
Gave a good impression of what we were doing. We could have thrown some Christmas Story House stuff in there. I didn't really think of that, but
Yeah, I meant to, and then it just got away from me.
yeah, I didn't take much video. It was mostly just photographs, but we could have thrown some stuff in there. But I try to keep it to what my audience is too. And you guys aren't really Christmas. This isn't a Christmas story channel. It's a sports card channel, low end card selling channel, whatever you want to call it. Dan says he could have bought us a Giordano's pizza if you had asked. No, Giordano's pizza is made in Chicago. Okay, so
And only Chicago.
um, and only Chicago. It's deep dish Chicago. Giordano's is the original. The one by our hotel is not actually the original restaurant, but um, yeah, it's I want the Italians who talk with their hands to deliver it, and yeah, I want the whole thing. So no disrespect to Cleveland Giordano's, but that's a Chicago experience. So, and have you ever had it, Charlie?
I have not.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, we're gonna break this kid in eventually here. Next year he's gonna get all kinds of good experiences.
Is it better than Domino's?
Okay, moving on. Yes, it's better than Domino's, Charlie. Giordano's is in Ohio. I actually didn't know that. I might have brought that up at least in conversation. I don't think I would have ate one there. I really wanted to eat Cleveland food, so we went to an oil change place instead, and had food there.
Did?
Um, which it was good. I did like that place. The atmosphere was fun, and we got some really good jokes out of it. So it was great time. I'm glad we chose that over Giordano's. When you come to Chicago, because yes, you're coming to Chicago next year,
Yes.
then we're basically the hosts, and I'll take you to a real Giordano's pizza place, and it'll blow your mind. Dan says he loved the 5 4 3 2 1 dealer. Also, he had amazing Nolan Ryan collection. Yeah, it was a great idea. I actually have there's a channel that I watch on a local seller here who does like pallet buying and stuff, and he owns warehouse space, and he opens the warehouse a few times a year, and that's what he does. He does a $10 day, and then a $7 day, and then a $5 day, and just kind of lets the tables sell down, at the different price points. Then eventually we'll do like a fill a bag for $1 a day kind of thing, to get rid of all the stuff. And I think that's a genius way to do it, because you don't have to be so concerned about each item you put out. If somebody's going to pop $10 on this item, great. If not, then that's not what the market has for it, and I'll try to get $7 for it,
Yep.
So it's a great way for the car dealer to do that. It made it real easy to understand the pricing, because okay, it's Thursday, it's $4 day. Dig through the boxes. You go through the boxes every day. Nice. You go through the boxes every day if you wanted to, right? And maybe that card you didn't want to spend $5 for is now $3, and now you're going to buy it. So it's a great way for that dealer to really get those sales and try to max those prices. In the same light, if you're there looking through the box and you go, I don't know if this is a $5 card or a $4 card, but I'm going to buy it on $5 day because I know it's not going to be here on $4 day, right? So maybe they squeezed an extra buck out of a few things here and there too. So um, it was an interesting. It was a good move, and I don't see other dealers really doing it.
So I
Good play.
actually missed out on the 5 4 3 2 1 dealer on Saturday and Sunday.
Mhm.
I struck out, on my journey that day with the intent of hitting that table, and then I never came across it again for some reason. Did they change the signage every day, or did they leave the 5 4 3 2 1 and just kind of exit out each day?
It just said 5 4 3 2 1. I don't remember if it had like the day on it,
Because
honestly.
I saw it early in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I don't know if they X'd them out or if they just had like Thursday is $4 when, I don't remember exactly what the signage looked like. I know who they are. I've seen this dealer before.
Yeah.
Um so And I even mentioned that to you, I think too. I know I mentioned it to Ethan. Like, I got to get to the 54321 dealer.
Yep.
That was a place of emphasis to visit,
Hmm.
and so I just knew that's how they operated. Yeah, it's $5 on Wednesday, $4 on Thursday, $3 on Friday, and so on. So
Yep.
it's not hard to do the math in your head. And then I think they had a bulk discount too, because I know I got a little bit of actually I got a decent deal on the stuff that I bought there too. Above that, I'd probably bought like 40 or 50 cards. Um, so it wasn't like, oh, you have to pay $3 for every one of these cards on $3 day. You could still kind
Right.
of bulk it up too. The dealer was willing to work, which was good. I saw you bought a couple of collections while we were there.
Hmm. I
Um,
did.
Buying out tables at other places and stuff. So I felt like they were constantly trying to look to get inventory too, which is a good
Yep.
sign from a dealer. Timothy says, shouldn't the promoters and the people in charge of the convention center get together and have a lot of these problems worked out beforehand? Like, we're going to
You'd
need
think.
X number of bathrooms. Okay, so I don't know how else to kind of explain this, because I'm just going off my own experience with Comic Cons, which I've been to many, like 30 plus big conventions. I've even ran events at conventions, like think like trade night, but it was not really a trade night. It's more like a merch night kind of thing. It's the same idea. People make their own stuff and sell it and trade it and whatnot. Not whatnot, but whatnot.
Different one.
Um, Different whatnot. Midwest whatnot. But yes, they should. um, and my comment to that is goes right back to what I've said earlier, and that's just this place is just not set up to do this. It's just not. And, if you only have two bathrooms, you only have two bathrooms. What are you going to do? They could have lined up a bunch of porta potties outside. I'd even made that comment before we got in there, and the bathrooms were a problem. Now there's bathrooms downstairs in the VIP area, but if you don't have a VIP pass, too bad. So sad. So for
Right.
us, it really wasn't that big a deal. It's a little bit of a pain always having to go downstairs to go to the bathroom. But not terrible. Nothing where it was like, oh, this is the worst. The food lines were the worst on Thursday. They literally were.
Yeah, I would agree with.
Um, and you're wasting your time trying to get into and from uh, maybe I take it from a little bit different perspective too, and why I'm a little more harsh on it because this is my livelihood. Like I have to do business at this show. I'm not just there to look around and maybe pick up some cards. That's not my function. I have bills to pay that um I need to run a business, operate a business correctly to do. And standing in line for 2 hours for a hot dog it doesn't really play into that very well. That's not conducive to my business activities.
Right.
So yeah, if you're just there on a casual Saturday and it's like, well, I could have went golfing today or I could have gone to the card show, I can stand in line for an hour for a hot dog, no big deal. Fine, that's great if that's your experience. But um yeah, that's something that they definitely should have had better worked out, ahead of time. And I just don't know that they understood the volume of people that are coming in. And now I know this convention center held this show before, but
Yeah.
it was way before the boom. It was like
Okay.
2017 or 2018, I think. And it's just different. It's just different now. There's a lot more kids. There's a lot more. Um, there's just it's just different. I don't know any other way to put it, and I just don't think that they're prepared to be able to do what this type of show needs to do. Let's see. It was from a Pack Ripper 2015 to 2020 NFL. It was all organized by team. I assume she knew everything was there. I did pay up a bit. What I thought was there, it turned out to be a diamond mine, though. Well, awesome. Good for you,
Nice.
man. Have fun. Hopefully, you make a bunch of money on it. I know a lot of people want more Mahomes cards in the market because they're getting hoarded, the early stuff. So,
Now I think
um,
Logical Collectibles has an LCS, right? Like down near South Bend or
yes.
something. So
Yep.
I'm curious, did someone bring them in, or did you get a line on something and go seek them out?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, how did you get those? Was it a ad in Facebook Marketplace? Was it some breaker? Were you selling them the boxes and then they were breaking them and now they just sold you the cards back? I don't know. Yeah, let us know how that ended up coming to be. ESPN had a great Steve Irwin commercial, attacked the U of Florida mascot in an office. I remember that. ESPN had some awesome commercials. Their office
They
commercials were
did.
amazing. Yeah. Mascots, I love mascots. You can do anything with a mascot and I'll watch. They're just great. Um, let's see. Dan says all the jokes we had that night fit right in with your sense of humor. That's awesome.
Good.
I'm glad we didn't turn you off too much. Yeah, we had a good time with it. Ripped some big league baseball packs and yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun. We had a good time. Uh I thought about this after. I'm like, we didn't take a lot of videos with viewers and stuff like that. And I'm in a way I'm kind of glad we didn't. So my take on some of this is not everything should be on camera. Sometimes you need to live in the moment. You need to have relationships that you don't have to monetize.
Right.
um, and I was glad we went to the restaurant, we hung out, we had a good time, we could be ourselves, tell whatever jokes and swear words we wanted to, and not had to be on camera. And I think that's good. I think that's fun.
Hmm.
Now, if you come up to me at the show and I'm digging in a box and you're talking to me, you're probably going to be on camera. But
Yeah.
so there's a time and a place, and I like to have things that are just for us and just for our viewers. And we're gonna try to do the same thing again in Chicago. It'll be a lot obviously easier there. You don't really have to go anywhere. We'll probably do something in the sports bar down in the hotel or something like that. Um, and just have some get together, eat some Giordano's or whatever we're gonna do, and look forward to that next year. Hopefully, we can get more people together at one time. Especially, got a lot of messages throughout the show like, "Hey, I'm over here. Where are you?" And
Yeah.
just trying to coordinate things and trying to meet up with people at a place like that can be tough. So, um, after hour stuff is seems to be the best way to do it. Let's see. Chris Longball is here. He says, "Enjoy the content every week. Keep it up, guy." Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah, I kind of mentioned that in my show video too, that I should have some more time now to do some of that. I'm at 47,282 listings last time I checked. So I'm really really pounding along here. I have plenty of cards to get to my max 60. So should be able to have less stress on that and I got almost all my drawers now converted over to the bag,
Oh,
so
really?
pulling cards has gotten a lot faster too. Yeah, I'm doing some like the random football right now, which will be good. Those are the drawers that I have to dig in the most. Um, so yeah, it keeps moving along. So those have been really big projects that I've been trying to get through so that I could focus on doing a little bit more content too. 358 days. Let's go. I know Bargain Boxer will be there. I don't think we ran into him at all at the show. I don't know how that's possible. I ran him
Yeah.
in Chicago like 4 times. So,
He said he was in
um
line behind us on the first day when we were getting our VIP stuff.
oh, was he? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, so that'd be great. I'm not sure where he stays. I can't remember what he said last year, but uh we'll be at the Hyatt just so everybody knows ahead of time. That's where we intend to stay. So if you're looking to book a room and you want to be in a convenient hotel, that's the place that we stay. Um, but yeah, well, hopefully it'll be a little bit easier logistics wise to get together with some more people. I can't remember if Barking Boxer just drove in each day or if he was staying. I don't know. You'll have to let me know. Let's see. Correct. I'm an LCS. Had a lady I've sold to over the course before. Oh, before I had a shop, she was downsizing her collection. Awesome. That's nice that she thought of you to sell it back to right away.
Yeah.
You obviously built a good relationship with her, so that stuff has a lot of value. Looking forward to the next Crawfordsville show. I don't know where Crawfordsville is. Do you?
Crawfordsville, Indiana.
Oh, it's in Indiana. How do you know that?
Because I'm in transportation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I look at maps regularly.
You're just like, yeah, that's in Indiana. Like you freaking go there every other weekend or something. I'm like, I don't know where that is. I had to look up what state Cleveland was in the first time, when they announced it. I'm like, "Where the hell's Cleveland?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's right, it's Ohio." I don't go to Cleveland, you know? I mean, although I gotta say, I really like Cleveland. It was nice. We got to, at least our drive in each day, the traffic part was bad once we got to the convention center, but our drive
Yeah.
there was nice. Like, we were going through hills, and weather was pretty good, and, like, I don't know, we found some decent places to eat. We got to go to Bob Evans, which I know Charlie was just dying to get to, so
Vince.
we got in there
Um,
at least one night.
the
But
food
yeah,
was
I
good.
had a huh?
The food was good. I
Yeah.
have no complaints about Bob Evans.
No, how could you? That's good southern cooking right there. But yeah, so we had a great experience with Cleveland. It's just that the convention center just doesn't match really, the needs of what needs to what it needs to be able to pull it off correctly. But yeah, Cleveland was great. People were really nice. Prices were fine for food and things like that. So, and then being so close to the Christmas Story House was awesome. I can't
Yeah.
imagine I would just go there on its own accord, so it was nice that we got to pair it with something. We didn't get to the Hall of Fame. We didn't get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, unfortunately. So if it ever gets back into that area, uh, excuse me, and we get to come back, well, we've got something else to add to our list. So that's always fun.
Yeah, it still makes me laugh that we had to make some choices about where else we go, and we chose the Christmas Story House. Like that was, I mean, that fit the time we had available too. So,
Right,
that was part of the decision. But when I look back and tell this story, I'm like, yeah, we could have gone to the Hall of Fame. The football Hall of Fame in Canton wasn't very far away either.
right.
Or we could have gone to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or we could have gone to the Christmas Story House, and we decided to go to the Christmas Story House.
Well, you have to remember, you have to keep in mind too that anytime you go to big events like this, you're bringing in all these people from out of the area. They all want to go to those places too. So the Hall of Fame would have been I can't imagine it would have been easy to get through, if you could even get to it. You might even had to call and make schedule appointments or
Right,
something like that.
right.
Look at how busy the Christmas Story House was. I was like,
Yeah.
it's July, why, and it's just a film location. Why are all these people here? Um,
Did
so
you see so the week after the National, WWE was in Cleveland for SummerSlam, and I'm watching the pre-show, and The Miz, who is from the Cleveland area, was the official host of SummerSlam. He shows up at the Christmas Story House in the coach tour bus, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the heck did they navigate that bus down that
oh
street?
yeah, yeah. My guess is they cleared everybody out ahead of time. That's one of those.
Yeah, they had
We're
to.
bringing money to your town kind of thing.
Right.
Though the one thing I kind of regret, and again, timing was part of it for us. We had a long drive and all that, but and you foolishly worked the next day. I don't know what you were
Yeah, I
thinking.
need to rectify that situation next
Yeah,
time.
don't do that next year. Although next year it won't be as big a drive, but yeah, I would have liked to have gone into the little bar across the street just to kind of check it out
Yeah.
too. It would have been
Mhm.
fun. Like that could have been our great final stop. Like go in there, have a beer,
Yep.
finish out the week, and then hit the road.
Bet you they serve a great Boilermaker.
I bet they do. Yeah, or Moscow Mule or something, right? Um, but yeah, I think we chose wisely. I wasn't disappointed. The other thing that I liked about that is it allowed me to get something for my daughter and my wife,
Yeah.
which I can't get at the Football Hall of Fame. They're not into it. I can't get them something at the card show necessarily, other
Yeah.
than I got Luna some Messi stuff. She does like Messi as a soccer player, but
How'd you like her
um,
Princess Luna card?
yeah, she's like, "Wow, that's really cool." I think she has one already, is what she told me. So I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I
That
don't know. I don't
parallel
keep track
too?
of that." So yeah, well, it's that glittery one,
Yeah,
So, and
yeah.
I know I've bought those before, so I might have flipped her one in the past. I don't remember, but um, Yeah, so that was kind of fun. I bought her a little plush Bumpus Hound, and I got something for our tree. For those of you who don't know, and maybe I'll show it this year, but we put up 14 Christmas trees in my house, uh, and they're all decorated. So it was important to get something, obviously, from the Christmas Story house to hang on a tree. So I got a nice
Yeah.
ornament, and um, yeah, it was fun. They do a great job there. Good experience. It's kind of neat because it's not just, oh, here, look at everything under glass. You were sort of able to participate. We were able to climb under the sink, and they
Yep.
had a leg lamp you could take out of the box and get a photo with. And then the phone in the hallway had, Mrs. Schwartz yelling in the phone, when you picked it up. What? What?
Yeah.
Do you know where he got it from? Probably from his father.
Yeah.
No, you heard it from your son. What? Um, it was just neat, and the bedrooms were kinda, everything was done really well. And we had a nice little, the guy who did the tour did a good job, and it was great. Other than it being like 110 degrees out,
Yeah. I think it was
uh,
the hottest day for the
it
trip.
it was. And mistakenly, I mentioned to my wife, like, "Oh, you could rent a bunny suit," and she's like, "I'm so disappointed in you. You
I
should have
told
had
you I
that."
would
And
have
I'm
paid
like,
for it.
I said, "Dude, it was like I was not gonna put that bunny suit on. I was not into that, and then drive for 9 hours after that without a shower,
Yeah.
you know?" This coming from a guy who wears a Wampa costume, right? So, uh, anyway, she was like, "I can't believe you did not do that." And I was like, "I don't even know if they would have had one in my size. I'm not a small man." Um, but it was good fun. I think it was fun to do something that wasn't sports,
Yeah.
just to add another little fun twist into the trip. You know, I talked
Great.
to my mom and my sisters after, and they didn't have one question for me about the card show, but they wanted to know all about the Christmas Story house. So, it gives you something to sort of share with your trip, that for people who don't
Yeah.
understand, collecting men on cardboard kinda things. Yes, Logical. Oh, that's why, because Logical, promotes the show that, Bargain Boxer was talking about. Let's see, September 7th is the next one. Our show is September 8th in
Yeah.
Green Bay. It's the GOAT Card Show. It's at the Riverside Ballroom in the east side of Green Bay. So those of you who are local who wanna travel here to be a part of it, we do have a few tables left. It's free admission, lots of parking, some food, full bar. Uh, Lots of Pokemon, lots of non-sport, lots of sports cards. So come on out and check that one out. If you're looking for a table, contact me or Charlie, um, or the website, or the Facebook page, I should say. Facebook page, The Goat Show, and we'll get you set up. So that's my shameless promotion for our show. But yeah,
Which is
awesome,
usually free
logical.
answers a lot of those messages, to be fair.
Yes, yes. I try to stay out of it for the most part. That's kind of how I want. We all wanted it set up that way. So, but yeah, things are getting handled, and we're getting close. So I did just post this morning. We've got a really cool. Actually, my laptop is sitting on the box right now, but we have an autographed Randy Moss helmet that was donated for us to give away. So we have to make some decisions there on how we want to do the giveaway, but um, we've got at least one more item for surprise for giveaway. So we've got some cool stuff that we're going to do too. We want everybody to be a part of it if they can be. So let us know if you need any help, or you have any questions, or need directions or something like that, and we'd be happy to help you out with that so you can be
There you
part of it.
go.
Manners and relationship building is amazing in life, and this hobby, guys. I agree. I think. And, that's the same with a lot of hobbies, but I can tell you from other hobbies and other, like, bigger shows that I've been a part of, this hobby is better. It has been. Um, I feel like everybody's kinda, I don't know. It's kinda hard for me to explain to some degree. I feel like there's a lot of self-actualization in this hobby. Uh, for those of you who don't know what that means, I feel like it's people who are very confident in who they are.
Yeah.
And they know what they want. They know who they wanna be and who they wanna hang out with, and, um, that's refreshing because you don't have to constantly try to reinvent everything and try to be one person to one person and one person to another person. Everybody's themselves, and you get out of the hobby what you put into the hobby, right? So if you want to build big relationships, you can do that. If you want to just be a there's plenty of people that go to the show, don't talk to anyone, do their cards, and go home at the end of the night, and you can do
True.
that too. And I think that's awesome. And just like I said earlier, with the beauty of this hobby is you can get in for a penny or you can get in for 20 million. It's the same way with personality types. There's plenty of introverts that go to the shows. There's plenty of extroverts that go to the shows, and everybody in between. And I think that's great. I saw just from my own personal observations, waiting at a table for food or something like that. I saw a lot of people like meeting together who had only done stuff online, and now they're finally meeting in person, and they were having fun and ripping packs and trading stuff. And to me, that's awesome. That's a big part of why you want to be a part of something like this. So the layout for the Cleveland National is better than the layout for the Chicago National. Yeah, to some degree it is, just because it's this giant box.
It's
You
very
can
wide
literally
open.
just kind of yeah, you can just kind of walk up and down it. Chicago gets kind of almost into rooms in per se. Like
Like the
there's a
Oak Creek
really
Card Show at the whatever it's
no,
called.
not to
No.
that extent, but there's like different areas to it and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
um, to in some ways that's better because it's like, okay, the breakers are over here and but I get what Bargain Boxer is saying. Yeah, it does. You can basically stand in one spot in the Cleveland room and be like, where was that booth again? Where's
Mhm.
Fanatics again? And kind of look, and you can sort of, okay, it's over there. Versus Chicago kind of there's some walls and some different elevations and stuff that you're getting through. So you have to kind of get to know the floor a bit. Um, so so from that aspect, I would agree with you. I think that the show floor is a little bit easier, especially if you're first timer, you don't really know where things are. Cleveland
Mhm.
was pretty good for that. Good evening. Getting in late tonight. Max has joined us. Welcome, Max. We spent a good amount of time bumping into Max constantly
Yeah.
uh, at the national, so that was really fun. It was fun to have some local people to hang out with too. Tomorrow is Kobe Bryant Day, 8/8/24. That is correct. I almost forgot about that.
So I
He
had
wore
had someone reach out to a family friend. Of course, they turned to me and said, "Would you have interest in this Kobe Bryant card?" And of course, I said, "Well, I'd have interest, yes, but what is it? What do they want for it?" So it was second year Upper Deck Kobe, the
Mhm.
gold parallel, not numbered or anything, but they thought it was, worth hundreds of dollars. So
It
had
is
to have
not.
that conversation. It is not.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
showed him the $6 recent eBay sales, and I said, "This is, someone could go out there right now and buy it for this." You're kidding me. So always fun to have those conversations. You hate to crush somebody like that, but it happens so often.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be, and anybody who's not involved in something, it happens, of course, but it seems to be
Yeah,
people who way underestimate what something is worth. Like, oh, I
yeah,
can't really be worth anything. Or more commonly, think, oh, it's worth everything.
yeah.
Um,
Or they're looking at like graded PSA 10s of it, and
mhm,
they've got a raw copy.
sure,
So
sure. So did you buy the Kobe card or what?
no, no.
Oh,
Well, I
you
knew
didn't
there
give
was
him,
going to
you didn't give
be.
him the $2 for it.
I knew it was unlikely to lead to any kind of purchase when I said, "Are we just talking about one card here?" Because it started like that was just an example of what they might have, and that piqued my interest. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to see what they have." And I'm like, "Wait, are we just talking one card?" Yeah, and then I knew immediately, yeah, this isn't going to be something for me.
yeah, yeah. Well, that happens. You don't
Yeah,
have to make every deal. That's for sure.
yeah.
Max says the layout is probably the only thing better in Cleveland. Unfortunately, my experience 6 years later is completely the opposite. I'm not sure I understand what that means. So layout is better in Cleveland. Okay, my experience 6 years later. Your experience of what? Like
Was the
from the
last one
previous
Cleveland 6 years ago?
Cleveland? So this year was better layout than last time. I guess I don't understand exactly what you mean. But yeah, there is some advantage to just being a giant box, and it was basically split in half with the food truck, so it was really easy to be like, oh, it's on this half of the box or it's on this half of the box. But I truly believe once you get into Chicago for the first hour or two on Wednesday, it's not hard to know where stuff is. They kind of do the same thing. They have banners hanging from the rafters with aisle numbers and stuff like that, and you can get around pretty easily. The two knocks on Chicago is that it's not a giant box to get around in, and the temperature.
Okay.
um, if they can fix those two things this year, I think the Chicago National will be one of the biggest successes. Little to no complaints. That, and if they can if the hotels can handle the um, amount of people who want to stay. 2018 in Cleveland was great. Was really looking forward to getting back this year. Was very disappointed. How so? Let's see. What are our other topics while we're waiting for Max here? Um. Oh, the eBay rumors.
Yeah.
So, watching some other channels and talking with some dealers in some other eBay categories that have made some changes. When eBay gets a solid competitor, which in sports cards they're getting now with PWCC, soon to be Fanatics Live, as well as whatnot, they have in the past taken those categories and dropped the um, final value seller fees. So they've done this with tennis shoes, they've done this with watches, and they've done this with guitars. All three of those selling categories have very viable competitive selling platforms to eBay. So eBay's response was, well, we'll take the fees away. That'll shut you down, which probably works for a large part to a large degree. Um, so anyway, the thought with a lot of the card content creators that talk about eBay selling and stuff is that they'll do that with sports cards because of um, Burbank leaving. Burbank is the third largest seller in all of eBay, I believe, not just sports cards, but I think all overall in categories. And so trust me, they know. They realize that this is happening and it's a problem. And where Burbank goes, will others follow? Probably, especially if they get to a platform that starts building momentum. So I think they might. I kind of agree with some of these things that I've seen as, and now just rumors. Okay, I haven't heard anything
Yeah.
from eBay. Don't put this thing down on me, but I could honestly see them doing that or giving us unlimited. I still want unlimited listings. I don't get the listing limit. It's stupid. Just let us list as many cars as we want. Don't make us become an anchor store for $1,000 a month. Nobody's going to do that, or very few will do that. And you're just
Right.
limiting how many. Or people open a second store. Well, what the heck's the point of that? Just let them list as many listings as you want. But anyway, that's a whole other topic, I suppose. But I truly believe that there's a solid possibility that they will drop um, final value seller fees, which would be huge. It would allow you to sell your cards a little cheaper again. You could stay competitive with things like buy sports cards, sport lots, ComC. There's all these places now that are starting to heat up competition for eBay, and Burbank leaving is could be a nail in the coffin as far as them willing to take those hits. And they've put a lot into their card selling presence. I mean, they're at all the big conventions. eBay doesn't set up at San Diego Comic Con, right? They set up at the National Sports Collectors Convention because they
Right.
realize what impact it has on their business. So I think that that's something that we could see. So we'll need to pay attention to that and see where it goes. But so that's kind of where the rumors thing had come out, and I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about that.
And
What do
when
you
you
think,
mentioned that
What do you
to
think,
me,
Charlie?
I started digging around a little bit. Haven't been able to find any solid leads on that,
Correct.
story. So like you said, it's pure speculation based on
Mhm.
kind of how eBay has reacted to market changes in the past. But as a seller, I look at it and the first thing I think to myself is, hey, that would be great. Offset the increased postage a couple times a year and maintain my margins, right? So
Mhm.
um because at some point, you know, the cards are going to price themselves out because of the costs. The low end cards price themselves off because of the costs to list and ship them. Um, yeah, we can raise our prices a little bit, but if they keep climbing to where it's $5 for a base 2025 card when they come out, um, is there a market for that? I think there's a certain point of diminishing returns. So we do look to save that margin at some point, some way. And that's encouraging to me to think about, okay, what's life without that 30-cent final value fee, or even if it was cut in half to 15 cents, right? Like it
Mhm.
offsets some of the other cost creep that we've had.
Well, the final value fee is not the 30 cents. That's the transaction,
You're right.
the
You're right.
financial
It's
transaction fee.
it's
It's a
the
percentage of the sale.
yeah. So
But
12% unless you're top rated seller, and then it's 10.
Yep,
Yeah.
correct. Um, and some would say, well, why would they even do that? They're then how are they making any money? Because you're still going to do the promotions. You're still going to do, you're still going to have your monthly store fees. You're going to have these other things that eBay is going to get their cuts of. Uh, but it allows them to stay competitive in the if eBay no longer has card sellers on their platform, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
It matters. It really matters. So and I don't know if they even talked to Burbank and they tried to work something out. I mean, they kicked PWCC off a few years ago. That was a big moneymaker place for them. Golden was doing stuff on eBay. Now they have their own online auction house and don't use eBay. So they're getting cut left and right now with these, card places that are getting big enough that are like, we don't need you.
Right.
And they kind of don't. So Whatnot, even just as a general platform to go to, Whatnot is definitely taking a cut. So it'll be interesting to see, if they really try to do something about it, or they just try to stay the dinosaur with it and hope people don't don't leave. Um, but yeah, that final value fee, that would be for me, that would be, over $1,000 a month,
Yeah.
that I would get to keep. So even with, promoted percentages and things like that, I think some sellers would potentially increase their promoted percentages and,
Sure.
they might still be able to get their cut pretty good out of some sellers, that way. But yeah, I mean, sneakers, once Star Stocks came out, um, that took such a huge hit in their sneaker selling market. There, nope, no seller fees on, and then the watch. I can't remember the name of the website that did the high end watches, but same thing. And they just went, nope, we'll not charge, and seller end fees here. At the guitar one, same thing. So there's precedence for this, right? And those markets are not nearly as important to them. Although the sneaker market's probably pretty important to eBay, but I would say the watches and the guitars probably aren't as important to eBay's business functions as sports cards are. So um,
I will tell you,
they're
as a guitar player, I've never once thought I need to go check for guitars on eBay.
right. Yeah, I thought the guitars was weird too when that was mentioned to me. But if you look at it, it's true. They don't charge final value fees
Yeah.
for guitars. So excuse me. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes going forward. They haven't really responded to the Burbank thing. I don't know if Burbank's taken all their listings down. I haven't done any research into it. Um,
I was wondering about that myself the other day.
and then I was thinking about this too. I was like, they're gonna have to port those or something because how are they gonna get those all over? They have like what 2 million listings or something. They're not gonna try to put all those on again on Fanatics. I would think they'd want to get some sort of, unless maybe they have files of all those listings, outside of eBay where they can just use a CSV or something like, have a CSV or something where they can just upload them into another platform. I don't know. We have no idea how they're working any of this out, but I think it's going to have a pretty big ripple effect in the card selling, and it's a great move for Fanatics. I mean, to get essentially the largest card seller, other than what is it, Greg Morris, and there's one other one, isn't there?
ComC.
That's up there. ComC. Yeah. Well, ComC they're just commission. They're just selling, their middleman. But yeah, uh, to lose Burbank is gonna be an eye opener for sure.
Burbank still got their store out there. They still got all their listings out there.
So I'm guessing, the deal is with Fanatics is okay. Well, once we get all your stuff ported over to Fanatics, you got to dump your eBay because they're not gonna just take down their eBay listings now and have nowhere to sell those cards.
They've got 2.4 million items listed.
That sounds about right. Yeah. That's about 2.39 million more than I have. So
Yes.
um, they've put a lot of effort into that, in building that part of their platform or their selling model. So I would venture to guess, now that they've signed the deal with Fanatics is going to help them get everything built and set up, and then they'll have to dump after that. So we might see, well, I shouldn't say might. We will see a few months before their stuff actually comes off of eBay. But I think that can help us twofold. Obviously, having 2.4 million cards removed and it's a lot of low end uh, from eBay can help a lot of the sellers. I mean, it's going to get spread out, so it's not like you're going to see this huge boom. But it's better than adding 2.4 million cards from another
Yeah.
seller.
Don't
And
you think
then
too, like
affecting the
versus
fees.
don't you think too, like versus pulling them all down, they're probably going to offer some kind of blowout sale? Sell as
I
much as you can in a short window?
No, I think they're just
Oh,
gonna. I think there's a way to just port them over. There's gonna be some sort of cross listing tool that, yeah, I don't know if Fanatics is building it themselves or there's a service. There's a bunch of services out there, but List Perfectly is one that comes to mind that a lot of resellers use, where they can take their eBay listings and they can just send them over to
sure.
um, these other platforms, right? So Fanatics, I'm sure, and Fanatics is gonna want that anyway. You wanna know why? Because they want everybody else to leave eBay and come over. So they're gonna throw this up there and they're gonna say, "Hey, just like Burbank did, if you wanna move your whole eBay store over here, you can do it in 10
Yes.
minutes, then we'll do it for free. But, and if you stay off of eBay, we'll do that, whatever." They're gonna offer small time deals to everybody else. They don't want just Burbank. There's no point in that.
Yeah.
They're going to want everybody, but you pin down Burbank and it gives you a fighting chance, right? I think that's kind of what their take on it was. Now, is our deal going to be the same as Burbank's? Probably not. I would imagine Burbank got a pretty sweet deal, or they wouldn't have done it. But no, I don't think they have any intention of just selling out what they have on eBay. It's going to be moved over to Fanatics, and I'm guessing Fanatics, when they jumped in and said, "Hey, we want to do this," Burbank was like, "Okay, come up with how we're going to get all this stuff over there," and that's going to be on Fanatics' shoulders to put together. But they're going to need Fanatics Live is going to need to build that part of that platform anyway, because you're going to have to entice sellers from other platforms
Sure.
to be successful. Because there's just enough competition out. They're going to have something where you can just copy over your whatnot stuff and things like that. I'm sure. So that's an interesting one. It's a rumor, but to me it's like a viable rumor. You know what I mean? It's not like a pie in the sky rumor. It's like there's evidence out there already of these things happening in these areas, these other
Yeah.
areas. that it would make a lot of sense to do it. And the unlimited listings, every time I talk to eBay, I just did an eBay featured store thing with them that they sent me, and they asked for feedback. So every time they ask for feedback, or I go on one of the um, like eBay live things or something, I always say, just give us unlimited listings. Why are you charging me 3 cents to list a card once I hit a not premium star, whatever's the next level? Why are you doing that? You can't do that on some of the stuff. Some cards are going to be long tail, and I don't want to pay 3 cents every month for that stupid card to sit there to try to sell it for a buck. Like, you can't. You got to let this go. It's not 1996. It's 2024. You need to change how you're doing. How this platform is set up to do that. I get it. Space was a premium back in 1996. Right now, you can have 3 trillion terabytes on a laptop. There's no reason that you know, storing a couple photos and a few listings is going to cause you any kind of, heartache. Let's go. You use your own servers now. You finish that conversion project, where you're not renting space. You're providing your own space. Let us list as many as we can. And they kind of did that already a couple years ago. Like, our business was not even viable a couple years ago because you only got 10,000 listings.
Yeah.
That was it. Then they threw it out there. It was like a promotion during COVID, I think the start of COVID, where they're like, "Here, have an extra 50,000 listings." And that's when Bo and I first started getting together, and we're like, "Hey, this is like we could like put a bunch of stuff on here, and sell cards at a reasonable cost." And and it's true. It made it, and then standard envelope obviously too is part of that.
Right.
But they gave us 50. If you can give me 50,000 listings, why can't you give me 2 million listings? What the hell difference does it make? So, and I get it. The original fear was, well, then people are just going to list all this stuff that's never going to sell, and they're going to put all their junk on. So what? Who cares? What difference does it make? What if there is a buyer? I sold a giant sloth head the other day for $25 on eBay.
Sure.
Right? You can sell anything. Don't give me this, you're just gonna, and who's gonna waste all their time to list 2 million items on there that won't sell? That, used forks or something, right? Like, no one's gonna do that. If they're gonna list stuff, they're gonna do it because they want to sell the damn thing. So just give us unlimited listings and collect on the back end. And anyway, I rant on that one quite a bit, but
Creed,
it's a
come
big
here.
focus of mine.
I
Huh?
got a visitor. Creed, come here. Hey, Max is on tonight in
Hey,
our chat. I think you owe him a big thanks for finding those Pokemon cards you needed.
You're welcome.
I think I mean thank you.
Thank you. Oh, got that wrong.
I love it. You're welcome. Never change, buddy. Never change.
Yeah.
You be you.
Big high school
Yeah.
orientation today.
Oh, geez. Yeah, we got that coming up too. We got to meet with the teacher and all that.
Yeah.
The start of the school year, not as much fun. Once you get into it, not so bad. But Max says hotel lines, food around the hotel, etc. Inside the show, other than bathrooms and food lines, it was probably the best national I've been to. But Cleveland and the IX Center didn't impress. Correct. I think my take is the exact same. I've been to 8 or 9 of them now. I don't know. I lose track of stuff like that, but it's been 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that range.
Don't
And
you
I
have all
agree.
the VIP passes yet?
I don't know, probably. Yeah. I'm sure I do. Well, back in the day when you got your VIP badge, there was actually like a card in it,
Oh.
like a national exclusive card, and they were all different. And I got a Favre one year, so
Here's what I
definitely have
want
that
them
one.
to do. When you pay for your VIP pass ahead of time, I want them to let you upload an image and give you a VIP pass that is a trading card of yourself.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. So that's a good pipe dream, but yeah, I kind of agree with your experience, Max. I thought on the floor, I had a pretty good experience, other than the fact that a lot of the dealers didn't bring all their products. Um, I shouldn't say dealers, but more like the distributors didn't have nearly as much selection. And what's the other thing? Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing that I felt like. Oh, that and the freaking breakers were too loud. It would have been nice to have a separate spot to put those yahoos.
Only when you're trying to conduct an interview next to them.
It was, yeah, and I was over there for a while, and I got really tired of listening to it, to be honest.
Do you
Boom and
do
no
you
thanks.
think the distributors didn't bring as much because they were thinking it was going to be a smaller show?
No, they didn't bring as much because where the hell are you going to put it?
You think so?
Yeah, because there's nowhere to stay. There's nowhere to lock anything up, and maybe some of the dealers just cover their their cases and they leave. But David Adams Card World is not going to leave all their sealed product sitting out there
Sure. Yeah.
for anybody to grab. So, um, yeah, that they just can't. You'll see next year. Just trust me. You thought you saw a lot of products there this year. Next year it'll be insane
I just
because
saw
those
Wild.
guys. Yeah, yeah. And Wildcard didn't bring in nearly as much either. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
the Paul
They sold
Skeens
out.
packs. Yeah, the Paul Skeens pack sold out like 2 hours into the show.
Yeah.
So essentially the entire experience outside of the show, trade nights were great. And I went to one trade night sort of by accident. Um, but my biggest complaint with trade night was they kicked me out of my VIP room so they could get all these people who basically wanted to sell their cards for free instead of getting table space, because that's really what a lot of trade night is. They kicked me out of my paid VIP space to let in these trading people. So I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that part. Um, Max has unlimited listings over a certain dollar amount for the store and no fees on taxes and shipping. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. They shouldn't be able to fee you for that. Also, although that opens up a can of worms that was closed years ago. Yeah, I remember the discussion on that. It was something about they had to charge you based on the total amount by law. I don't remember. Um, but yeah, there was a reason that they did it. But yeah, just give us unlimited listings. It's real simple. All they have to do is just turn off. And they keep track of that. And you got your little pie chart that tells you how many you've used, and just get rid of the whole damn thing. It's so
Yeah.
stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know how many platforms I can go on and list as many items as I want? And they don't care. And you mean to tell me eBay can't handle that? Like, dude, come on. If I can go on to, use, you know, buysportscards.com and list 20 million cards, why can't I do it on eBay? It's so
Yeah.
stupid. Max says, I got you, buddy. Hope to see you soon. I think he's referring to Creed, I would imagine.
Yeah.
People were posting items for 99 cents with $100 shipping to avoid the fees. Correct. Yes. Oh, you're right. And that's why there's fees on it. You're right. Yes, that's exactly why. Yeah, I remember people too getting around like you can't sell burned CDs. This is how old I am and how old eBay is. So what you'd do is you'd go on there and you'd sell a pen, right? Like you'd take, some really small object. Well, let's just say a trading card, right? And you'd list this penny trading card for $10 on there, and and included free is this burned Alanis Morissette CD, right?
Yeah.
And they shut that crap down pretty quick too. But yeah, a lot of people would do the cheap item with the big shipping cost to avoid the fee. You're right. You're absolutely right. So I would never do anything like that, but so that's why it didn't cross my mind right away. But
You still see a lot of those big shipping fees that some sellers put out there, though, that mask the true cost of the item. Do you think that's a carryover from those old practices that they still do that?
I think part of it is that, and I also think they're just hoping to catch somebody who's not paying attention.
Yeah.
You go, oh, this is a $30 card, and I get it for $25, and then the shipping is $10,
Yeah.
and they don't really catch it. They just hit buy it now. So many people are shopping on these little tiny phones at 2 a.m. in their bed, and they probably bust enough people on it. What I can tell you is that those businesses won't stick around because people don't want to be bamboozled. They're going to get, and we can get into this, can be our segue into why feedback doesn't matter, but it also does. but they're going to get horrible shipping scores, you know,
Yeah.
on their ratings and things like that, bad negative feedbacks, and um, I don't get the point in that. If you got a $20 card, sell it for $20. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? But that's some of that. A lot of, as much as we say, well, there's all these bad actors in the hobby, blah blah blah. It's actually a lot less unscrupulous than it used to be. I'm sorry, but it
Yeah.
is. I remember going to those first nationals, and it was like you had to bring that damn price guide with you and look everything up. And these dealers, they were selling like fake, and I talk about that all the time in the Discord, because people are like, "Hey, I got this Otani rookie card," and I'm like, "That's not a card. You can't sell that. That's a counterfeit card. There's no licensing. They weren't allowed to make that with that image on it." And in the 80s and 90s, there were full dealer tables just of cards they printed in their garage
Hmm.
on tables of Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and all this stuff, So, um, for as much as there are some definitely bad actors around, there was a lot more of it back then, and it was harder to catch because you had to try to find that information. It wasn't as available. There wasn't content creators, there wasn't, sports card radio, there wasn't,
Right.
um, internet articles, there wasn't a, "Hey, look for this. This is how you spot a fake Michael Jordan card." None of that stuff was out there. Just kinda had to go there were no graded cards, you know? One Michael Jordan card was the same as another Michael Jordan card. You had to know which one was fake and which one wasn't. So, um yeah, there was a lot of those kind of little scammy games played on eBay back then. See, he says the same thing. VHS tape sold as a blank, but it had the NBA Finals on it with Jordan's last game. Yeah, tons of that stuff. Tons of blanks selling VHS categories. Well, you're probably right. That probably still happens. Cassettes, yeah, all those recordable media. Um, I don't know if that matters anymore. Like, if you wanna see Jordan's last game, you can literally just pull it up on YouTube
Stream
and
it.
watch it
Yeah.
for free. Yeah, I don't know why you would even buy a VHS tape of it, but, unless you wanted the commercials in it or something, I guess, I don't know. So, yeah, so that's my take on the rumors thing. I think we're gonna see a changing in some fees, for us, I hope. Let's see, what else do we have for topics? I thought we had one more. Oh, why feedback doesn't matter. I've talked about this for quite a while, and as your feedback gets bigger, you realize less and less impact. Anyway, when you only have 20 feedback and you get a negative, yeah, that's probably going to hurt because people are looking at you, because you're a new seller. But with 20,000 feedback or something, it doesn't matter as much as you think. But the bigger reason why it doesn't matter is it does not play into your metrics for eBay's scoring. So they don't consider it for your top top rated seller plus. They don't consider it for your um, exposure, if you want to call it that. Their promotion. How they promote you for listings and things like that. It doesn't play into any of that. It's literally just a conversation between you and the buyer. And if other buyers look at that and they decide not to buy from you because of it, yeah, it can cost you a sale. That is true. But I I've bought a lot of cards on eBay and I do not go and look at anybody's feedback. If they have a 99.9% feedback, I buy the card
Yeah.
or the lot or whatever. If they have a decent feedback, the photo is actually theirs and not some stock photo. Um, Top rated seller, those kind of, I look at that stuff, I'm good to go. I don't need to see John didn't like that there was a weird piece of tape on his top load when he got it in the mail. I really don't care. So, because that's what a lot of that feedback is just that like nitpick weird, oh, it took 3 days longer to get here. Well, that's not the dude's fault. Like, that's the
Right.
post office sucks sometimes. There's weather, there's all this stuff. Um, Granted, you can get those removed, but some sellers maybe don't even put in the effort because they don't, feedback doesn't really matter that
It's
much.
not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth
Not
the
worth it.
time.
No. So, no, if you've got a 92.6 feedback, you probably wanna put the work in to bring that up, because that's gonna cost you a lot of sales and maybe cause you problems with eBay at some point too. Because
Yeah.
generally, if your feedback is that low, you have problems. You're not shipping on time, you're charging too much, whatever the case may be, and that's going to start showing up in other areas. But for the most part, no, feedback doesn't really matter. You want to get to that. I kind of feel like the breaking point is 1,000, right? When you hit 1,000 feedback, you're good. You kind of want to get to that mark. You get your little shooting star. It's 1,000 is more than enough. It's got a nice solid 4-digit number next to your name where people can go, "Yep, this guy knows what he's doing. He's been doing enough of this."
Yep.
And then after that, it's just kind of the number just keeps getting bigger, and it doesn't really have any added value. Kind of like subscribers. It's almost you can almost compare it to YouTube in to some degree. Like you need those 1,000 subscribers so you can get monetized. Once you have 1,000, it says 1K on there instead of like 800. Then your subscriber base just kind of grows. Like, I'll have subscribers that will unsubscribe. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't. You
Yeah.
know. Whereas when I had 100 subscribers and I would go down to 98, I'd be like, that's that much more work I got to put into now to get to 1,000. Not that I don't care about the subscribers. I want everybody to have a good experience, but some people just aren't into cards anymore, or don't do low end anymore, or don't like the types of videos I make. That's okay. Or they subscribed and kind of forgot about it, and they're cleaning it out, and they go, I don't really watch this guy anymore. I'll unsubscribe. But it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. You can have 20 million subscribers, and if nobody watches, who cares? You can have 1,000 subscribers, and if every single one of them watches an hour of your videos a week, you got some good view times. So
Yeah.
the subscriber count doesn't really matter, and that's kind of how feedback in eBay feels.
I think there's one use case where I would be a little more concerned about feedback. And before I even go on, you're right. My early days on eBay as a seller, I was very in tune with my feedback.
Mhm.
But once you reach a certain point, you're like, okay, that people put anything out there, whether it makes sense or not, and it really doesn't affect anything. But the use case where I do think it's a little bit important is when you're selling higher end items. So we're typically selling $1.99, $5.99 cards. I don't think anybody really spends much time checking feedback before they buy a card like that. Now, if I was going to buy a $1,500 card, I would probably check the feedback to make sure this is someone who's been selling for a while, has good reviews. I can feel confident I'm getting what I'm buying and not going to have issues. If I'm going to put that kind of money up on a card, then I would probably check it. But I don't think it matters for low end sellers like we do.
Mhm. Well, and even with the $1,500 card, it's going to go through authentication. So
True.
you have eBay, gonna take care of you on that side too. But you're right. Why go through that if you can avoid it up front?
Right. Right.
Um,
Like we've
I
had
would.
examples in the Discord where someone says, "Boy, I got this rookie card or second year card. I sure hope it's real." And then that's one of the things we do, right? We look at that guy's sales history to say, is there an example of any other problems people have had? So that's really the only place I think about feedback coming into play.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, when we first talked about this, my first thought was, how does it impact you with your standing with eBay?
Yeah,
And it doesn't at all.
not at all.
So to me, that was when we were discussing it. That was the position that I was thinking of it from. Not like, oh, would a future buyer not buy from me? Sure, yeah, it
Yeah.
can impact that, but it does not. It doesn't have any bearing on what you're doing with eBay itself.
Yeah.
So that to me, that's where the statement in my head comes from of it doesn't matter. So, and that's why they don't spend a lot of time on it either. When you're like, hey, I want to
Right.
talk about this feedback this guy left, and they're like, nope. You can request to have it removed. We make our decision, and that's the end of it. Because they just don't want to spend all day on feedback. It's not really worth
Right.
anybody's time.
That said, like on my dashboard, I see like the 4 or 5 most recent feedbacks
Mhm.
because it's all on the page where I'm seeing where my sales are and, print orders and stuff like that. I glance at it regularly, just those top 4. And the only reason I do is because sometimes there's some really unique feedback that
Mhm.
either I find funny or rewarding, but no longer do I ever get upset if I have one negative or one neutral feedback. I read it, I kind of shrug, I shake my head, and I move on. That's it.
Well, yeah, you have to think about, like, you think of it like a real business, right? Is anybody 100% satisfied with a business? Like, I don't know that that's think about businesses who thrive that have only negative feedback. Think about Spectrum, right? Who on Well, if you guys don't know what Spectrum is, if you don't have it in your area, they're a cable provider, basically a monopoly in our
Yeah.
area. I can't think of one person I've ever talked to in our area that's like, "Dude, you know who's an awesome company? Spectrum."
Yeah.
No one says that. And yet there they are. They're just doing their business and they don't care. And I'm not saying take that attitude towards your customers by any measure, but um yeah, feedback it's a grain of salt type of thing. You have to one person's perspective on something is the piece of tape you put on your top load really should not affect your
Yeah.
feedback. It really doesn't have
Yeah.
anything to do with it.
And
So,
I've had this discussion before too, that realistically, as a buyer, my expectations are pretty low when I'm buying a $1.99 card, right?
mhm,
Like, realistically, the majority, if not all the transactions I've been a part of as a buyer, it really just meets my expectations.
mhm,
By all rights, I should feel totally comfortable putting neutral on everything. I don't have strong feelings either way. I ordered a $1.99 card. I got a $1.99 card that looks
mhm.
like a $1.99 card. And what do I have to be upset or happy about? Right?
Okay, okay. I'm gonna come clean here. Can I tell you guys a secret?
Sure.
I have never left feedback for a seller.
You don't even put it on auto?
No.
You are not part of the community.
So if I buy a card, if you're the seller and I buy a card from you, you're not gonna get a feedback from me. It's not worth my time, and it's not worth your time either. I won't leave you a negative or a neutral either. So there's
Yeah.
that. But and feedback for like there are some weeks where I get like 800 feedback in a week. So the volume of feedback we get due to the volume of sales we have just makes it that much less significant. So
Yeah.
no, I don't I think feedback's outdated. I think it's not really necessary. I really want to know the metrics of the seller. Like, do they ship on time? Do they, you know what I mean? That's what I care about, not, some Johnny Wad got his, underwear twisted and decided to leave a negative today. I really don't care about that. I want to know, does this person, I want to know their star ratings, right?
Right.
On the
Right.
things that they do. And that's it. And once I have that, I'm fine. I don't,
But you did leave a
so
Yelp review for Bob Evans.
did I? Because I should. You're right. I should. And And
I
same with Giordano's. Giordano's really they need their pump
There you
too.
go. It is interesting though. Some people really spend a lot of time on their feedback as a seller. Just a week or so ago, I got a long message from somebody that I bought a card from. And I think I got the message before I even got the card. Hey, blah, blah, blah. I really, take a lot from my feedback. I'd really appreciate it if you leave me a review. I've been selling cards for 24 years, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, sure, it was probably a canned message,
Mhm.
but they're sending this out to everybody that buys a card from them. Like, I'm not putting that kind of effort into it.
You know what I would do with that?
I do
Not
nothing.
leave not leave a feedback. So,
I
no,
have
I
auto feedback on.
and I you guys can I'm transparent. So, You
Yeah.
guys can hate me because you can be like, dude, I'm a seller and I want people to leave me feedback. I just don't. I I'm like you. I bought a card for $2. It doesn't change my life. I'm not leaving a positive, a negative,
Right.
or a neutral.
Right.
I paid you, you sold the card at a price I agreed to. I paid you on time. The card came in, it was in decent shape. We're done. That's all
Just
I need out
is.
of that.
Yeah.
It's like a receipt for buying a donut, right? Is it necessary? Not really.
Yeah.
I give you the buck, you give me the donut, and we're done. Like, let's move
I
on.
love that they ask you if you want a receipt these days.
Yeah. Well, as you do more business things, you will. Like,
Yeah.
you probably noticed that this past week I collected a lot of receipts because
Yeah.
you just need to do that.
But
Now
like, I don't need a receipt for my donuts from Quick Trip or something like that.
right,
So I
right.
appreciate that they don't force it on you anymore.
But that's my point. When you're buying a $1 card, it's the same thing as buying a $1 donut. I
Yeah,
don't
it
really
is.
need a feedback. Um, you know. And that's the other thing with feedback too. Somebody's more likely going to leave a negative if they have a negative experience than leave a positive on a positive experience.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
true.
still have to look at it that way too, going, okay, well, if this guy has 1,000 positive and 1 negative, he probably really has like 4,000 positive. It's just
Yeah.
nobody, the other 3,000 people are me, and they don't leave feedback for the seller. I've been on eBay since 1996, and I've never left feedback for seller ever. I just I just don't.
Ever?
Nope. Not that I can remember. No.
But you're also not a rule follower. We've talked about that.
That's the guy who does a U-turn on a one-way road. Yeah.
that
No.
was different.
Stop.
That
It's
was
not.
different.
It's worse.
No,
Worse.
that was
Worse.
fight or flight.
It's worse. It's worse than feedback. There is no rule that says you have to leave feedback. So you're wrong.
Okay, you got me there. There's no
Haha.
rule that says you have to.
It's a voluntary process. Did you know paying your taxes is voluntary?
Well,
The
everything is
first
voluntary. You just
first
have to
line.
decide if you want to deal with the consequences.
Correct. That's true. That's true. So, all right. I think with that being said, I had to put it in here at least once tonight. I didn't want to
That's the only
disappoint it.
time I heard it.
I didn't want you almost said it too. You said that said at one point, and I was like, "Ooh, you almost did it. You almost did it." I
You're
almost
rubbing
had to
off
drink.
on me?
I almost had to drink.
Ah, jeez.
But yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for us tonight. I'm down to like 18% battery on the laptop. Uh, we gotta. I think we gotta make it a little bit more of a point in some upcoming weeks to include more stew. I
More
feel like
stew?
stew gets neglected a little bit lately.
He does. He
He does.
does.
He does. He's not as vocal as he once was.
He's still around tonight though. There he is. We brought him in.
There he goes. Yeah, that's probably the other part of it. We didn't have him on screen. So, all right, we've got two more. We got two more comments here, and then we'll let everybody go for tonight. Content commercials. There's YouTube accounts that are solely dedicated to cutting up old footage like that. Not sure how I know about the tapes. Oh, I'm sure. Yes, I watch a lot of that stuff too. One of my favorite things around Christmas time is to put on like a 2-hour video of Christmas commercials, as weird as it sounds. Love it. So there's people who literally edit out the actual content intended to be on the tape and keep the commercials. So I can completely appreciate that. I still don't think I would ever purchase it on eBay. I don't see why I would need to do that when it's free,
Yeah.
but yeah, back in the day, I remember a lot of burn CD sales and things like that. There was a ton of that, especially stuff that wasn't out yet. Like, I was a big Family Guy fan, and they had like 5 or 6 seasons out before they released any of them on DVD. So
Okay.
it was like people who could actually just like Napster them and stuff and had the actual storage capacity, the big fancy computers and the burners.
Yeah.
They put them on DVDs before, because you couldn't buy them. So like that was the only way you could get those.
True.
So that was a huge market, when it wasn't even commercially available. So yeah. But I think we're at the point where they need to drop the listing limits entirely. I mean, They used to put dollar selling limits on you. We just talked about this not that long ago, but now they
Yeah.
give you like now I can list like $2 billion. So you're gonna let me list $2 billion in cards, but only 50,000 listings. Like,
Right.
how am I even gonna get to that? It doesn't make any sense. Like the whole thing is. So I think we're gonna see some changes there. If not, I'm gonna keep pounding on eBay. Anytime that, do you have feedback for us? By chance,
Yeah.
I do. I actually do. I'm not leaving feedback, and I want unlimited listings. Those are my 2 things.
There you go.
Um, and then the other thing is I think we could see some eliminations, maybe not on every card listing, like in the entire category, although I think that would be the right way to do it. But I think we're gonna see some changes in some of those final value fees like sneakers and watches and guitars have. So
Yeah.
look forward to
Oh,
that. We'll
fine.
see how it goes.
Well, looks like the sun is coming down on us, Adam.
Ah, oh boy. Are we singing again? Because I attempted singing once already tonight. I even
Don't
attempted
let
an
the sun.
oh no, don't. Come on. We
What?
we're gonna lose all our viewers.
Come on now.
Dan says he's been to the original Giordano's. Nice. Yeah, I go there. I haven't been there in a couple of years now, but I've been there quite a few times. 8 years ago, I was in Chicago for a business trip, and we went to a Bulls game after. Yeah, it's right up the road from it. So, yeah, amazing. That's Elton, isn't it? Yes,
Not
yes.
tonight. Tonight it's me.
No, nope. We're gonna let Elton continue that one. Then we'll leave that for Elton. But I tried an Australian accent, so I mean, I
You
guess
did
we're
horribly.
going for it. Yes, horribly. Accents is not my thing. But I think that's going to do it for us this week. Any parting thoughts there from you, Charlie?
I think we covered everything we wanted. It was good discussion tonight. I enjoyed it. But I'll be interested to see how eBay responds to that, if that comes to fruition or not.
Awesome. Well, with that being said,
There it is again.
Peace. Are you going to peace out us or what?
Peace out. Take care.
I was going to let you have your moment there.
I know.
Yeah.
I kind of switched it up,
You
because
did.
sometimes
and
we linger on a little bit,
totally
but other
threw me
times
off.
we go pretty tight. So
Totally threw me off. All right. And remember, you can't sell, but you don't list. We'll see y'all next week, hopefully. 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, Wednesdays.